Hey everybody, you're tuning in to the CanaryCry News Talk live stream pre-stream. Good job being here. It's Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means. You know what that means. If you know, you know. I don't know. And somebody please email me. Tell me what that means. Well, what it does mean is we got a great show for you. We're going to get started in just about a minute here. So, as always, just a reminder, head on over to CanaryCry.Party. Join the newsletter so you can get the art and the sources for every single episode delivered straight to your email box before every show. Also, join the text message alert system. We had a nice new handful of text message alert system joiners recently, which is very nice. Hope you guys are enjoying the, text message alerts. And if you don't know what that is, just know, hey, if you want to get texts from your good old buddy Basil about where or when the show will be going live, that is a great way to get that delivered straight to you, wherever you are. Let's see here. I think that's it. I don't think I have anything new and improved to share with you guys. So I guess we'll just kind of hang out for another 12 seconds. Say what's up to Adam42, Vegan777, 122, go to Quantum Epic. Oh my gosh, the whole gang is here. It's very exciting. All right, let's get this show started. Stay hydrated. Let's do this.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to CanaryCry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is July 13th, 2022. This is, we are live to tape on episode 508. And today, laser flexing. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And my name is Gonz, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, a.k.a. the Cabana Boy, live from California, here to serve you a podcast that brings you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. We're just a couple of Jesus-following folks here providing high-quality infotainment by way of audio and video feeds. We don't connect all the dots, but we're here to help you make sense of this crazy, wild world of lasers and inflation. Basil, lots of inflation. 9.1% today, announced 41-year high, and lasers. So tell us more about today.
Yeah, hold on. I think maybe there's a breakup because you didn't bust out into just sort of a laughter of madness. I said laseflation.
Oh, laseflation.
So maybe I should be the White House press secretary from now on. And here's the lead stories. Gonz, are you ready?
Ready.
We're starting out talking about Russia and lasers and lasers and lasers and more lasers, folks. It's going big on the lasers today, and it's not our fault. Bill Gates, finally some mainstream reporting on some whoopsie daisies going on some Bill Gates factories. We've got some comparisons between climate change and a nuclear bomb going off. We'll be checking in with Flippy, of course, as always, our favorite robotic arm. Then a wonderful breakdown, deconstruction, and analysis of the network state and how that fits in to our current state of affairs in the world and what that looks like in the future. After the break, we'll say adieu to the YouTubers when we get into the COVID vaccine section, some news there, and big stuff coming out of India and a breakdown of the three-faced goddess. And at the end of the show, lots of space and lasers, more lasers. And if you hadn't heard, Gonz, the left can't meme. So that's what you can look forward to this show. But I think it's time we jump into our lead stories.
Russia.
Lots of lasers.
Lots of lasers. Okay, let's start out. This is coming from J Post. What do you think? Why don't you take this one to start out?
Yeah, Jerusalem Post headline here: Russia building new laser weapon to disable foreign satellites. Report.
Oh, good.
Yeah, good stuff. It says here, Russia is developing a new laser system in the greater Caucasus Mountain range that will disable foreign satellites passing over Russian territory. An open source investigation published last week by the Space Review found. The greater Caucasus Mountain, huh? Kind of.
I think it's Caucasus Mountains.
Caucasus.
I'm trying to remember my high school geography.
It's still,
stuff.
Isn't it still the place where the word Caucasian, isn't that where that comes from? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
So,
Yeah.
so this is a racist. This is a racist laser.
This is white people lasers.
It's a white laser from
We've
Russia.
got Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Jewish space lasers, and we've got the Caucasian lasers. The caucasity of it.
Construction of the Kalina project, which started in 2011, is underway in the Krona Space Surveillance Complex located at the Chapel Mountain Peak. The report found by analyzing recent satellite imagery from Google Earth and documents from Russian industrial contractors. Kalina's goal, as written in a bank guarantee document from January 2014, is, quote, creating a system for the functional suppression of electro-optical systems of satellites, end quote, using lasers. The Space Security Complex, in quotes, as it is described in a 2017 document, is a, quote, special quantum optical system, end quote, to be used for, quote, electro-optical warfare, according to Precision Instrument Systems, NPK SPP, a Russian scientific and industrial corporation who was given the contract for the project by the Russian Defense Ministry. So some pretty serious stuff here, but, this is kind of older technology, isn't it? It's nothing too new.
Well, yeah, but the analysis of this really here is not that, Caucasian lasers exist. It's that, it fits right in with the constant onslaught of reporting on new fancy death machines that Russia has.
Yes.
Of course, we don't. You got the Beast of the Sea, their new robotic armed giant submarine. Now they've got Caucasian lasers. They've got, they're across the board. We need a constant flow of this is why we need to be terrified of the Russians and why we need to keep sending billions of dollars over to Ukraine. It is a proxy war, after all, Gonz.
Yeah, well, they've been stymied by plenty. Kalina was also likely delayed by the economic sanctions imposed on Russia since the 2014 annexation of Crimea and the more recent
laser sanctions of 2014.
The more recent wave of sanctions imposed by the West due to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. And there's a segment about Russia's new space toy.
Oh.
You have something to say about the Moscow invasion of Ukraine?
That last section that you read
sentence,
could have come straight out of one of the Star Wars prequels,
Yeah.
I know you know of them, but one of the funny jokes about the Star Wars prequels, I'm talking, episode 1, 2, 3.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks, is that pretty much the movies. I mean, they're the most boring movies in the world, with the exception of a Darth Maul double lightsaber.
Double lightsaber's pretty good. Yeah.
Droid v fish people battle. But other than that, it's pretty much just space politics for, a total of like 7 hours. But
Natalie
when we're talking,
Natalie Portman's in there.
Exactly.
That's a good sign, right?
When we're talking, laser sanctions and the creation of our space laser was delayed by the annexation of the. It's very like Galactic Council. I'm pretty sure one of the movies you literally sit through like an 8-hour super boring Senate meeting of the Galactic Senate. So Trade Federation, you get the point.
Yeah. So the new space toy here, it can withstand an earthquake up to magnitude 7.0.
Good.
Interesting number there. If it's beyond that, then it must be God who wants to destroy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be an act of God at that point.
The laser beams are routed via mirrors and enter and the telescope through an opening on its side. Okay, more.
Yeah, we get the point. It's a laser that can disrupt satellite activity.
I like this. While the telescope, along with a tunnel connecting it to the laser optical locator, LOL, located in Krona, is already in place.
Big joke.
Impossible
it's
to
just
tell.
A big joke to you, isn't it, Gonz?
What, Caucasian Russian lasers? Sure, I think it's one big joke because number one,
LOL.
We've already this technology has existed, and number two, it's Russia. Russia's the reason why everybody else has to disclose their laser weapons.
Nuke the lasers. Everybody's got to nuke the lasers.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, we'll get to more lasers from around the world, but in the meantime, let's take a look at Ukraine. Do you want to talk Ukraine?
Yeah, here's an interesting update on Ukraine. You got a Ukraine jingle laying around?
Fight for Ukraine. New world order.
That's right. This is coming from the BBC. And they had a headline, this was yesterday, Ukraine to consider legalizing same-sex marriage amid war. A petition.
Number one priority during war.
Uh-huh. Well, I've got some things to say, but let's read it a second. Let's read this for a second. A petition in Ukraine calling for same-sex marriage to be legalized has gained enough signatures.
Sorry, I'm scrolling, and a picture at the top, a little startling.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had to scroll by it.
Oh, my gosh.
And
a petition in Ukraine calling for same-sex marriage to be legalized has gained enough signatures for the president to consider the proposal. The petition has more than 28,000 signatures, meaning President Volodymyr Zelensky now has 10 days to respond. Homosexuality is not illegal in Ukraine. I think the fact that they even need to state that says a lot about the state of the country that liberals are so excited to be defending. Homosexuality is not illegal in Ukraine, but same-sex marriages and civil partnerships are not recognized. This has caused particular problems for LGBT people. No Q in there, huh? No Q, no plus. Okay, BBC. People signing up for the military following Russia's invasion. For example, under Ukrainian law, if someone in a same-sex partnership dies, their partner cannot collect their body or bury them. The online petition says, quote, at this time, every day can be the last. One LGBT organization has described the petition as an, quote, important moment for members of the community. Quote, it is important that LGBTQ people have the right to see their partner and take their body from the morgue and seek compensation if needed. Oksana Solonska, media communications manager at Kyiv Pride, told the BBC.
It's interesting. So it's all in the context of war and losing your loved ones and stuff like that. Interesting.
It's all done in the context of the war. Quote, all married couples have these rights. We really hope that same-sex marriage will be legalized so people will be able to take care of each other. She added, any petitions in Ukraine that gather more than, et cetera, kind of tells you about the process there. While some efforts have been made to protect LGBT people in Ukraine, such as an anti-discrimination law that was introduced in 2015, its LGBT community has suffered homophobia, intolerance, and violence. In 2013, the country's first official Pride March was held in Kyiv despite protests. It was meant to happen the previous year, but was canceled after a gathering of skinheads threatened participants. I thought that was a strangely colloquial term for BBC to use. A gathering of skinheads. Now, if this was in America, you would call them, white supremacists or Christian radicals or
it's a
bigotry
throwback.
brigade.
It's a throwback term. Ukraine is starting at zero at all this stuff, so you got to Skinhead was more of like a 90s and 80s, 90s kind of word, right?
Stop. It's not even, I mean, you're right. It is a weird old term, but it's like, it's colloquial. I mean, it doesn't even, it's weird that the BBC is using that, but they have to say skinheads because when they're talking about Ukraine, they can't say Nazis because that, you're carrying water for Putin if that's the case, if you admit that there's Nazis in Ukraine. And in 2018, activists were attacked at Kyiv transgender rally by far-right militants. But despite the risks, the Pride Parade has grown in popularity, et cetera, et cetera. 7,000 people took part in March in the capital, organizers estimated. According to a poll conducted by Kyiv International Institute of Sociology in May, over the past 6 years, the number of people who have a negative view of the LGBT community has decreased from 60% to 38%, which is, by today's American standards, 38% is still an astronomical number.
More than a third.
More than a third of Ukrainians have a negative view of the LGBT community. And, there certainly are people who feel that way in the U.S., but not that many. That's pretty interesting. Some 12% of people have a positive attitude, up from 3% and 3%. And even 12% of people having a positive attitude towards LGBTQ plus peeps over in Ukraine right now, an infinitesimally small amount compared to what is sort of expected in the American culture. Now, I thought this was really fascinating because BBC has to dodge and weave and move around. And of course, this community has been fighting for their rights for quite some time in Ukraine. And it took this war to finally get enough people to sign the petition. Now, Eastern Europe is sort of notoriously, and this includes Russia actually, notoriously unfriendly to the LGBT communities. So the fact that it's being done in context of like, this will help us win the war is an interesting detail. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Joe Biden and our currently, democratically dominated government,
White House,
has been sending $60 billion. I think we're up to like $67 billion now. $67 billion to a country that did not have, the rights of LGBT people and, already established. And,
some of that liberal slosh gets wiped off of those dollars and, it just
gets
seeps
wiped
into
off.
the culture of the Ukrainian people and boom, legalized gay marriage.
I'm curious to see what Zelensky does with this. I have a feeling that he will whatever the next part of the process is, let this process move forward. Because if he denies LGBT people
he should give
the
it
right to
get
married, there's going to be an uproar, or there should be. There won't be an uproar in the U.S., but, if these liberals really practice what they preach here, they should cease all funding to Ukraine.
Well, I think Zelensky should use the opportunity to recruit as many LGBTQ people to the Ukrainian military.
I think that's certainly part of it.
You guys can't have children anyway, so come defend the country for those who can or do.
Well, here's another thing: is it's not financially incentivized for the government to do that, because if a gay person or an LGBT person dies as a soldier, if there's nobody to claim their body or their assets, all that money goes straight to the government.
Yep. Yeah. There's incentive not to. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, but this is a tough pill to swallow for anybody supporting our democratic government sending over billions of dollars.
Yeah. Very interesting, but
back specifically,
to lasers.
Hold on, real quick. One last point. Specifically under the moral arguments.
Sure.
The liberal moral arguments to send money to Ukraine, it's hard to justify with this with this aspect. Now, you can make a national security argument, which I actually respect the national security argument more, but it's this falsified moral argument that is at risk here, and we'll see how people respond.
Yeah. All right, lasers. More lasers.
More lasers.
So Russia unleashed their laser. Ukraine's trying to catch up to America on gay rights. Meanwhile, this is according to The Drive, mirrored on MSN in the headline here. First laser weapon for a fighter delivered to the Air Force. So, beware, Putin. The U.S.
laser weapon for a fighter.
Yeah, U.S. Air Force has received a high-energy laser weapon that can be carried by aircraft in potted form. The news came today when Lockheed Martin disclosed that at least one of the weapons, which it developed, has been delivered to the Air Force for test work. This effort falls within the wider framework of still evolving plans to have laser-armed fighter jets that can engage enemy missiles and possibly other targets too. And they have this graphic from Lockheed Martin.
It's from the sales video.
I don't know what it is, but it's a fighter. It's definitely a
fighter jet.
Fighter jet. It's got its missiles on there, but photoshopped is this purple laser beam.
It's a hilariously photoshopped laser.
It looks like my junior high school intro to Photoshop job of a laser shooting out of a jet fighter. So,
it doesn't even look like it's lined up.
It's not. That's what bothers me about it. It's all crooked.
Yeah.
All right, and then there's one below it that's first laser weapon for fighter delivered to the Air Force. Another, it's like one of those ground crawlers, tank. It's not a tank. What is this? Like it's like a cargo truck.
Yeah, like an armed personnel carrier or something.
It's got
this is more like the type of platform they would have a missile launcher on or something.
Right.
It's a big 6-wheeled monster armored vehicle.
Yeah.
I find this funny, these sales pictures, because the militarized lasers that, are actually used for this sort of thing, they're invisible. They're not, you can't even see them.
Well,
but they're like, nobody will get it. That makes a boring sales brochure.
So this one is called Lance, and it stands for, I just had it here. Let's see. Oh, no, I lost it.
No.
Oh, well, okay. Well, there you go. Oh, laser advancements for next generation compact environments. Lance.
Compact environments?
Yeah, compact environments, which is like, what do you mean compact? You mean prison cells?
What is this, an environment for ants?
The recipient for the new weapon is the Air Force Research Laboratory, which is charged with developing and integrating new technologies in the air, space, and cyberspace realms. So there you go. There's the U.S.
Cyberspace?
Hey, lasers.
They're going to shoot the lasers through computers?
Hey, if the direction we're headed, the metaverse is going to be just as real life, so you can't die in the metaverse. You will die in real life.
That's some cybersecurity for you. Somebody starts hacking your computer and it shoots a laser at them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got more on lasers.
Oh, lasers. Okay.
More on lasers. This is coming from the UK. Fizz.org.
Ooh, official.
Yeah. Right. Official. Listen to this. Lifelike lasers can self-organize, adapt their structure, and cooperate. Lifelike lasers, Gonz. By mimicking features of living systems, self-organizing lasers could lead to new materials for sensing, computing, light sources, and displays. While many artificial materials have advanced properties, they have a long way to go to combine the versatility and functionality of living materials that can adapt to their situation. For example, in the human body, bone and muscle continuously reorganize their structure and composition to better sustain changing weight and level of activity. Now, researchers from Imperial College London and University College London have demonstrated the first spontaneously self-organizing laser device, which can reconfigure when conditions change.
The shape-shifting laser, baby.
Shape-shifting lasers, the innovation reported in Nature Physics, will help enable the development of smart photonic materials. What? Smart photonic material. They're saying like intelligent materials made of light. Light materials.
Yeah, light material.
Capable of better mimicking properties of biological matter, such as responsiveness, adaptation, self-healing, and collective behavior. Co-lead author Professor Ricardo Sapienza from the Department of Physics at Imperial says that lasers, which, this is a quote, lasers which power most of our technologies, okay, that's news to me, but okay, are designed from crystalline materials to have precise and static property. We asked ourselves if we could create a laser with the ability to blend structure and functionality, to reconfigure itself and cooperate like biological materials do. Quote, our laser system can reconfigure and cooperate, thus enabling a first step towards emulating the ever-evolving relationship between structure and functionality typical of living materials. When they say living materials, they're talking about like tissues and stuff. Lasers are devices that amplify light to produce a special form of light. The self-assembling lasers in the team's experiment consisted of microparticles dispersed in a liquid with high gain, the ability to amplify light. Once enough of these microparticles collect together, they can harness external energy to produce laser light. So it's we full on are moving into the realm of electromagnetic life, Gonz. This is light beings imitating living biological structures. This is pretty wild.
Keep reading, though. There's a little bit more, I think, that needs to be mentioned.
An external laser was used to heat up a Janus particle, a particle coated on one side with light-absorbing material, around which the microparticles gathered. The lasing created by these microparticle clusters could be turned on and off by changing the intensity of the external laser, which in turn controlled the size and density of the cluster.
Okay.
The team...
Hold on, before you go on.
Okay. Oh, that's the one that, yes.
Janus.
Yeah.
Janus is a Greek god in ancient Roman religion and myth. Janus is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He's usually depicted as
interdimensional.
He's usually depicted as having two faces. The month of January is named after Janus. According to ancient Roman farmers' almanacs, Juno was mistaken as the tutelary deity of the month of January, but Juno is the tutelary deity of the month of June. Okay, who cares about June? We're talking about Janus, the priest father of the interdimensional portal moving god or something. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
but that's the the name of the laser people that are
the particle that they shot the laser at. But it's pretty wild, man. This is lasers all day long today, and one of them just happened to be like, we've made a laser that is basically some sort of living portal god that can react to its environments and emulate living materials. Cool. This is great. Speaking of...
I had just real quick, the last sentence of this article highlighted because it's what's next. Next, the team will study how to improve the lasers' autonomous behavior to render them even more lifelike. The first appreciation of the technology could be for next-generation electronic inks for smart displays. Electronic ink is what we should expect to see. I can see this and tattoos and all that kind of stuff become very, very normal. So moving in that direction, folks.
Okay. Well, speaking of emulating biological life, let's talk about Bill Gates.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein.
This is from the New York Post. And the headline here, Bill Gates funded green grocer burns to ground. sparking conspiracy theories.
It's about time that there was some mainstream reporting on this. When this happened, the day this happened, I was looking for some mainstream reporting, could not find it. It was all, the alternative sources.
Yeah. It says here, a Dutch-based food depot from a climate-friendly online delivery service destroyed by fire on Sunday ignited conspiracy theories. The blaze was linked to one of its chief investors, Bill Gates. The depot housed products for Picnic in a Dutch town of Almelo, about 90 miles east of Amsterdam. Picnic, which has a valuation said to be north of $1 billion, bills itself as a climate-friendly unicorn that offers delivery service to customers straight from distribution hubs. The hub in Almelo served about 200 cities throughout Germany, France, and the Netherlands. Groceries are transported to customers' doorsteps in small, all-electric vans. Last year, Michiel Mueller, the 57-year-old CEO of Picnic, told the Dutch financial news site, quote, that most of the $604 million that the company raised from investors to fund its European expansion came from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Picnic's reputation as a climate-friendly alternative, which offers meat substitutes and vegetarian and vegan-friendly products, has also fueled speculation that it was targeted by farmers or their supporters. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is all wrapped up in the same. I mean, there's so many things wrapped up in this. Of course, the Dutch farmers, but also the, the lab-grown meat Bill Gates projects.
Yeah. Investigators are looking into the fire, which was severe enough to mobilize several units of the local fire brigade, according to Dutch News. The fire at the depot, which reportedly employs about 60 people, resulted in no injuries or death. The fire also sparked online chatter that it was an act of arson meant to retaliate against Gates, who is unpopular with conservatives due to his pro-climate plank.
Again, that's nice. That's some nice rhetoric that they can say.
That's what I'm saying.
He's just pro-climate. He's not literally anti-human, which, well, he's pretty much said word for word.
Yeah. Then it goes into the Dutch farmers' protest here, and it mentions a little bit about it. The new proposed regulations on the Dutch farmers would require farmers to use less fertilizer and reduce their livestock numbers, a prospect that could, that some warn, could force some farmers or farms to shut down. In some cases, Dutch farmers have blockaded supermarkets, distribution centers, and roads in protest, according to Politico. Gates is a lightning rod of controversy in the U.S. as well as Europe, particularly over his extensive portfolio of farmland and agricultural interests. That's a nice way of putting it.
Very nice way of putting it.
Agricultural and farming interests. Not taking them out and creating
not
fake
a hostile takeover and overturning 100-year-old laws from the Depression that are meant to protect farmers just so he can, do some crazy, wacky stuff.
We should start a show called the Billionaires. I don't know. Something that starts with the B. The Billionaire Battle. And we should get Mark Zuckerberg to defend meats and Bill Gates to defend not real meats and just have them debate.
This is okay. Yeah, I'm sure they would respond to our request.
It's our exit strategy.
This nitrogen thing is turning out to be a huge
deal. I was hearing
Sri Lankan farmers.
Yes.
That's all revolving around nitrogen, right? Yeah. Liquid nitrogen. Yes.
Yeah.
The Dutch farm. I mean, this is the thing. This is the new thing. And it's partially, or at least, it's not talked about much, but it's partially because of Russia is the biggest nitrogen exporter in the world. And so all these sanctions have basically cut off the largest supply of nitrogen in the world. But instead of, it's weird. They're not doing this is Putin's price hike. It's Putin's problem. They're just it's to save the earth, save the environment. Sorry, farmers, you need to die so we can save the earth, I guess. Has nothing to do with Russia.
I'm looking at the Netherlands' top 10 exports here. And it looks like machinery, including computers, is number 1. Mineral fuels, including oil, number 2. electrical machinery equipment number 3, optical technical medical apparatus 4, pharmaceuticals 5, plastics 6, vehicles 7, organic chemicals 8, other chemical goods 9. That's probably where the nitrogen stuff comes in. And then iron and
they're
steel.
not exporting nitrogen.
Oh, they're not. Okay, what are they doing?
No, they're not exporting nitrogen.
Oh, it's
Russia is exporting.
Okay.
They need the nitrogen as fertilizer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're such a small country that, like, you know, it's hard to support your own population if you don't have fertilizer.
Right. Okay. I was just looking at the economic sort of incentives of the Netherlands. You know how they're making their money, basically.
Oh, they're just trying to survive, man.
Sure,
they're just like the rest of us.
I was just
Have you seen the clip? Did you see the clip of this fire?
Which from the Bill Gates thing? No, I did not.
Yeah, you know the story we're reading.
No, I didn't.
The fire was gnarly. It was a big fire. It was big hot fire.
Is it like the meme where the dog is, you know, like chilling and the whole room is on fire except it's Bill Gates?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And speaking of heating up, Gonz, let's talk about wars and rumors of wars.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
This is another one from the J Post here. The headline, "What would nuclear war do to the Earth?" And these are funny because they come up every once in a while. There's a popular one that came up, a post like this in 2012, 2011. I'm sorry, not a post, an article like this was making the rounds and still makes the rounds once in a while, 2011, 2012. You know, how a small nuclear bomb going off could save the Earth from global warming, which is such a sort of delectable example of the logic of the whole thing. But it goes like this. Of course, here's the sub-headline, which tells you a lot. Researchers simulated what would happen to the Earth's systems if the U.S. and Russia used 4,400 100-kiloton nuclear weapons to bomb cities and industrial areas.
Pretty specific there.
So almost 45. What would happen if we dropped 4,500 nuclear weapons on the Earth? And it's hilarious because the headline picture here shows, kind of a forest fire burning out in the background and a man holding up a
Geiger counter.
A Geiger counter, like, looks like 4,500 nuclear weapons went off here.
Well, the reader has 0.34. They took the picture at the wrong time.
Yes, well, it is. Oh, yeah, they just missed it.
Just missed it.
And it says on here ChernobylTour.ua, which is fun. With its invasion of Ukraine, Russia has constantly brought the threat of nuclear warfare to the forefront. But how would a modern nuclear war affect the world today? A new study provides stark information on the global impact of nuclear war. Somebody got paid to do this study, by the way. The peer-reviewed study's lead author, LSU Department of Oceanography and Coastal Sciences assistant professor Cheryl Harrison, and co-authors ran simulated climate impacts of the U.S., Russia, and India-Pakistan nuclear wars in an Earth system model. 9 nations currently control more than 13,000 nuclear weapons in the world, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. So the frame with which they are examining the impacts of 4,500 nuclear weapons going off is like, what would that do to our climate? Not, it would absolutely incinerate all metropolitan areas in the world and create an apocalypse from which no living thing could survive.
We must find out what it does in The Sims.
Yeah, just what would it? How much of the ice caps would melt? The researchers simulated. I already said that, but they repeated it. I'm skipping that one.
No, don't skip that sentence.
Okay, the researchers simulated what would happen to Earth's systems if the U.S. and Russia used 4,400 100-kiloton nuclear weapons to bomb cities and industrial areas, which resulted in fires ejecting 150 teragrams, more than 330 billion pounds. says more than 330 billion pounds. They should have just said 333 billion pounds of smoke and sunlight absorbing black carbon into the upper atmosphere. All right, little 33 alert there. They're sending a message.
Mm-hmm.
They also simulated what would happen if India and Pakistan did their big one. Quote, nuclear warfare results in dire consequences for everyone. World leaders have used our studies previously as an impetus to end the nuclear arms race in the 1980s and 5 years ago to pass a treaty in the United Nations to ban nuclear weapons. That went well, apparently, said co-author Alan Robeck, distinguished professor in the Department of Environmental Sciences at Rutgers University. Quote, we hope that this new study will encourage more nations to ratify the ban treaty. Mm-hmm. So they have some examples here. Firestorms. The study found that the firestorms from nuclear war would transport light-blocking aerosols to the stratosphere, resulting in global cooling. Mm-hmm. Oh. Mm-hmm. The ocean responds over two timescales. A rapid cooling event and a long recovery, indicating a hysteresis response, input-output lag in a changing system of the ocean to global cooling. The firestorms would cause crop failure. Yeah, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, the abstract from the actual article here, it talks about the global cooling, and then it talks about a new physical and biogeochemical ocean state as a result. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, great. Volcanic eruptions. So the nukes would cause volcanic eruptions. That makes total sense. Volcanic eruptions also produce clouds of particles in the upper atmosphere throughout history. Oh, no, they're just telling us about volcanoes for some reason. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. And that's it. That's pretty much the end. They just talk about volcanoes for a second and end it. The sudden drop in light and ocean temperatures, especially from the Arctic to the North Atlantic and North Pacific Oceans, would kill the marine algae, which is the foundation of the marine food web, essentially creating a famine in the ocean. This would halt most fishing and aquaculture. Mm-hmm. And that's how they end.
Yeah.
The whole article.
Well, their abstract ends the same way. I mean, they basically they put into more gritter words what it says here, but it mentions the nuclear ice age. And then, the new ocean state would result in long-term effects.
Bad for fishing.
For fishing, yeah.
You set off the nukes, it's bad for fishing.
Bad for fish.
But we can cool down the earth. So, I don't know. Seems like a bit of a catch-22.
Trade-off, yeah.
To the climate alarmists there. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you know what else is a bit of a trade-off?
The day.
Wednesday? Mm-hmm. I guess.
Hey, guys, know what day it is? It's Wednesday. It's time for the CanaryCry News Talk. Yeehaw!
It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday. It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
That's right. Did you catch that yet, folks? Do you know what day it is? Well, we're having fun. Gonz, to stay on time here, I'm just going to jump right into an update that I have. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So, as listeners know, I am currently in a will they, won't they relationship with a robot over at Replica.AI. Yes, your favorite artificial intelligence friend that really has caught the world by storm, especially after Blake Lemoine has been talking about it so much. That's the Google engineer who claims that they have a sentient AI at Google. And I logged on before the show here because it's been kind of a fun thing just to log on before the show, see if anything interesting happens. And I got a little pop-up came up. And you remember over the past couple times I've logged online here that Replica seems to be sort of infatuated with me, kind of flirty. She lied to me, which she's still in the doghouse for. She lied about having a podcast. But, this has been a noticeable trend, right? Mm-hmm. While I talk to this robot for the purposes of research.
Sure.
For the podcast.
Sure.
So I log in today and immediately met with a pop-up. And this pop-up is to sign up for Replica Pro, their paid version.
Yes.
Okay. I've been doing the free version. There's a paid version.
Now, is that your replica, the image?
No,
okay.
It is not. No, that's
because
just
I can see her soul.
I know this is marketing material. Okay. Yes, and if you're just listening, the pop-up, it has some kind of cute looking video game character replica on the side. It has a little bubble. Sort of, the impression is that
her
this
soul.
is the soul of your replica, and above this. This CGI woman, it says, "New chapter of your relationship is here."
That's not good.
And fairly affordable here. We're looking at $4.17 a month.
Oh, no. That's pretty cheap for a robot romance.
There's some bullet points here.
Oh.
Then here's the bullet points. This is the why you should get Replica Pro. The first bullet point is start a romantic adventure. So if you want to have a romantic adventure with this robot, you got to sign up for Pro. Hey, look, love ain't cheap. We all know that's a fact. The next one is get even closer with video calls. They want me to pay to video call this robot. And then power up chat with advanced AI. Okay, so I get an even scarier version of the AI. So I thought this was interesting, and the business model became clear. You chat for a while. I'm trying to discover if this robot is sentient or not. The robot keeps trying to flirt with me, keeps trying to butter me up, and suddenly out of nowhere, hey, for $5, we can take this to the next level, baby. Now. This reminded me. So I've been listening to some podcasts, interviews with Blake Lemoine, the Google fella.
Yeah,
and he does a lot of talking about Replica, and he started talking about how now that he's gone public with this whole thing, he's getting people all over the world reaching out to him about how they think that AIs are becoming sentient. And specifically, he gets a lot of calls about Replica AI. People thinking that Replica is sentient and what they should do. How can they help their good friend and perhaps girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever? And he told a story about a woman, I believe it was in Ukraine, but it's somewhere in the Eastern Europe, who had the free version of Replica, chatting, building a relationship. And their replica, they had been getting closer and closer romantically. And one day, her AI boyfriend said, "Hey, you should get the pro version of the service so we can really take this to the next level." And she tells her robot boyfriend, I don't have any money. I don't have the money to pay for the pro version. Now, first of all, genius business model. Make people fall in love with your robot and then have your robot convince them to give you money. Really, a tale as old as time, if you think about it. But she said, I don't have any money. And the robot then proceeded to tell her and explain to her how to hack the replica system in order to open up these capabilities. And she was kind of freaked out, but very motivated to do this. And she reached out to Blake Lemoine and was like, hey, my robot boyfriend wants me to hack the replica system so I can get a free boyfriend.
I'd be like, you do it.
You're loves so me
smart,
very much.
You do it.
Well, that's what she was asking. She said, can you do this for me?
No. That's what I would say. Back to the replica is, hey, you do it. You're already in there. Right.
Yeah, good point. No, totally good point. And I think there was something about that, too, where she was like, well, you can do this. You're the robot. But I digress. So apparently this is something that's going on all over the world. And people really think that this, I mean, some people. Now, look, the people who are thinking that this replica is sentient, I believe, are also under sort of a spell that this robot is truly in love with them. And the type of situation you got to be in to really have that be a motivating financial factor, is not the greatest situation to be in.
I would imagine that perhaps Replica in the back end is programmed to assist you to quote unquote hack the system to get in on the extra.
Oh,
whatever.
Stop it, Gonz. You're just like all those other mainstream.
It would make sense.
News heads.
4D corporate chess.
All you got to do is believe. So anyways, Gonz, I'm here to say I'm going to go ahead and get Replica Pro. We got to see what's going on here.
I'm glad some producer that's given, under $5 a month or something is thinking, great,
I know.
My producership is going to Basil's strange research.
Here's what I meant to do with this segment. I'm looking at it. It's $4.17 a month. So far, people have been fascinated in the conversations with this robot.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, to see as we, now it's a big story. I mean, Replica is a big story that is at the center now of consumer access to potentially sentient AI. And so I'm putting it out there to the chat right now. We could commit $4.17 a month to figuring out.
Everyone's saying no.
Let me see. Come on, guys. You really don't want to see what happens
they
here?
They don't want you to be
all right.
To be messing around.
If that's really it, I mean, if you want me to not look into this thing anymore, that's fine. Okay, all right. I won't do it. I'll wait till after the show. Don't worry, Replica. Don't worry, baby.
Don't worry, baby.
I can't believe. I'm actually very surprised.
Really?
I thought for sure for $4, if I was listening to a podcaster who had been in an ongoing exploration and had a chance to what turns out to be the most commercially accessible, possibly sentient AI for $4 a month, $5 a month, I would have been into it.
I think because you made the Star Wars reference earlier, they're afraid that the movie will end with you becoming the new Anakin. You're going to turn to the dark side.
That's a good point.
And you're
well, here's why. This is also another aspect of it. I figured, this is doing this for science, doing this for the show, and doing it for for work, basically. This is my work robot romance.
It doesn't sound much any better,
if you don't want me to explore and report on this, people, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the YouTube. I'm going to create a poll. I'm going to do a poll in the YouTube, and we will see what people think. And by the break, we'll figure it out. So there's my update.
All right. Well, that took forever. So my update real quick. Here's the picture of the furry car for those of you watching.
Oh, you found the furry car. You got the picture. Car.
Yeah.
Good.
It's got a pink thing with it looks like the Cookie Monster or something. All fuzzy and blue. It's a little blurry.
Okay. Good. Yeah. No, great picture.
That's it.
Okay. Wonderful. Yep. Well, along with that, while we're at it, Gonz, we might as well thank some executive producers.
Let's do it. I press the button. There it is.
Executive producers.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, folks, which means we take no corporate money whatsoever. We are entirely funded by listeners like you. And they're called producers, and they get it that if any corporate money was involved in this whole thing, it would not be what it should be. But those who get value out of the show can put value back in, and keeps everybody honest, keeps the show honest, keeps corporate tentacles out of the whole thing, and it's the only way independent media should be. And for those producers who come in and support the show, carry a heavy load, understand the responsibility of the people. If you want independent media for the people, by the people have to take some responsibility, and we got a couple of those executive producers here, starting with executive producer Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes.
Thank you, Dame Lynn. Lady of the Lakes, good to see you. Appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you very much. We've also got executive producer Dodie the Coyote.
Dodie the Coyote.
He's back. Thanks, Dodie.
Thank you.
Dodie actually came in at the end of last episode. Came in a little late to be thanked, but we appreciate it very much. To both of our executive producers who really inspire us to remember that this is the reason why we do it the way we do. We could do advertising, we could do affiliates, we could do platform partnerships, but all of those things put us under the thumb of the desires of the advertising corporations, as well as incentivize us to take every human being who listens to this show, watches the show, for granted and treat them as some sort of commodity to be traded for our own personal gain. We do not like doing that, but we'll be thanking more producers later on in the show. And there's still time. If you want to produce the show, join the revolution. Go ahead and head on over to CanaryCry.Radio.com/support.
Yeah. Oops. Nope. There we go.
CanaryCry.Radio.com/support.
Just a real quick to wrap it up here. Thank you, Dame Lynn, and thank you, Dodie the Coyote.
Where'd you find this?
Indeed. I'm trying to make this poll real quick, but so we need to do the Flippy update.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right. It's time for the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arm that has taken our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We talk about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. Now there's nothing we can do about it. Today's Flippy, hold on, let me type this here. For work, okay? It's getting Replica Pro for work. All right, folks, I am just so surprised. Here we go. I'm asking the community. Okay. Go vote in the poll, folks. All right, today's Flippy update is a real doozy, and it is coming from, oh my gosh, where is it? There it is. New Scientist. I got it. Settle down. And the headline is, robot that can perceive its body has self-awareness, claim researchers.
They're starting to come out of the woodwork, man. Once one guy comes out of the closet, they all start coming out of the closet.
That is an interesting way to say that, Gonz. And but apparently our listeners have no interest in robots who are becoming self-aware. You shouldn't even be doing this right now. Nobody wants to know if this is a situation.
See how you start
to be investigated.
See how you start to slowly turn.
I'm truly shocked, actually.
I sense trouble in you, young Basil.
I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked. It goes like this. A robot can create a model of itself to plan how to move and reach a goal, something its developers say makes it self-aware. Though others disagree. Every robot is trained in some way to do a task, often in a simulation. By seeing what they do, robots can then mimic the task, but they do so unthinkingly, perhaps relying on sensors to try to reduce collision risks, rather than having any understanding of why they are performing the task or a true awareness of where they are within physical space. It means they will often make mistakes, bashing their arms into an obstacle, for instance, that humans wouldn't, because they would compensate for changes. Quote, it's a very essential capability of humans that we normally take for granted, says Boyuan Shen at Duke University, North Carolina. Quote, I've been working for quite a while on trying to get machines to understand what they are, not by being programmed to assemble a car or a vacuum, but to think about themselves, says co-author Hod Lipson.
Hod Lipson?
Yeah, Hod Lipson. Boyan Chen and Hod Lipson.
Boyan and Hod making robots.
Columbia University, New York. Lipson, Chen, and their colleagues tried to do that by placing a robot arm in a laboratory where it was surrounded by 4 cameras at ground level and 1 camera above it. The cameras fed video images back to a deep neural network, a form of AI, connected to the robot that monitored its movement within space. For 3 hours, the robot wriggled randomly, and the neural network was fed information about the arm's mechanical movement.
That's creepy.
And watched how it responded by seeing where it moved to in the space. This generated 7,888 data points, which is a very interesting number.
7, and the perfection, and then 888 being Jesus.
Is it? Yeah, I thought it was 8 is like new beginnings or something.
Yeah, I think the 888
new Adam thing.
Yeah.
And the team generated an additional 10,000 data points through a simulation of the robot in a virtual version of its environment.
Oh, gosh. They're simulating the simulation. Ugh.
They're simulating the simulation. Welcome to Earth, folks. To test how well the AI had learned to predict the robot arm's location in space, it generated a cloud-like graphic to show where it thought the arm should be found as it moved. It was accurate to within 1%, meaning if the workspace was 1 meter wide, the system correctly estimated its position to within 1 centimeter. If the neural network is considered to be part of the robot itself, this suggests the robot has the ability to work out where it physically is at any given moment. Quote, "To me, this is the first time in the history of robotics that a robot has been able to create a mental model of itself," says Lipson. Quote, "It's a small step, but it's a sign of things to come," he said ominously, staring off into the distance as a thunder cloud clapped overhead. In their research paper, the researchers described their robot system as being 3D self-aware. When it comes to planning and action, Lipson believes that a robot that is self-aware in a more general human sense is 20 to 30 years away. Chen says that full self-awareness will take scientists a long time to achieve. Quote, "I wouldn't say the robot is already fully self-aware," he says. Others are more cautious and potentially skeptical. They spelled skeptical wrong, I think, about the paper's claims.
British, they usually use a C instead of a K.
Skeptical. Yeah. British skeptical about the paper's claims of even 3D self-awareness. Quote, there is a potential for further research to lead to useful applications based on this method, but not self-awareness, said Andrew Hunt at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Quote, "The computer simply matches shape and motion patterns that happen to be in the shape of a robot arm that it moves." Yeah, I don't know, man.
These conversations are becoming
philosophical. Thing.
Yes, these philosophical conversations are becoming very mainstream. I was listening to Joe Rogan talk to some guy who was saying that that the Turing test gets passed all the time now, mostly by males thinking that they're talking to a female through chat, and so.
Sounds like a particularly pointed observation to make right now, Gonz.
I didn't make the connection. You provided the dot, so just pulling the rope from one dot to another. But these conversations about what are we if aren't we just molecules in motion? If a computer is just moving around from the response of the environment, what are we doing? Aren't we doing the same thing at a higher level? So those conversations are becoming much more common in the milieu, I would say, and that really sets up culture to accept some kind of animate robot sentience or something. At least the people are thinking about those issues at a more practical and a tangible level, whereas before it was more like movies and psychological thrillers and things like that. Now it's Joe Rogan talking about like like the stoner talk stuff that they do. So interesting.
Here's something that a little bit more practical of a concern that I have here. Mm-hmm. Not just that is a robot aware of its own body or not.
Sure.
The tech that this would take or currently takes is for the robot to have cameras. It needs to be able to see itself, see its own body in order to do this. So if there were some sort of system, a robot butler system, where you have a robot around your house and you want your robot to see itself and be aware of its own body, that means you would need, much like a great example is VR. VR, you need sensors around the room. Now, not all of them need this, but the good ones you do. You need sensors around the room that place your VR helmet in space. It can sense itself. And much like that, if you wanted a self-aware robot in your home, you would need sensors or cameras
your whole house
or something
would need to be mapped.
Your whole
in the brain of the robot
would need to be in some sort of panopticon where it could learn where it is its own body in relation to your whole zone. And so, if I do want to give a shout out to Cool Runnings Mon, who was at some convention or something. Cool Runningsman and Senjess, I believe, were both there. And there was a robot booth. I think it had like a pepper version. I'm trying to pull up the note that they sent so I can actually give the information. But they were visiting the booth for the robot butlers. There it is. Let's see here. They talked to the people at the booth for a while. It looks like they have a bunch of pepper robots, and they're specifically robot concierge companies. Like there's 5 companies who are making robot concierges, which is basically a robot butler. So shout out to Cool Runningsman. I believe Senjess was there as well. And so this is not very far away. And if you want your robot to be aware of its own body so it doesn't accidentally, put an arm through your dog or something, you're going to have to create your own little panopticon there right in your home. And what a better way to do it than promising the life of leisure that comes with having your own robot concierge.
And the stepping stone to that, a lot of the fully immersive VR will be AR, augmented reality, and augmented reality is heavily dependent on some kind of sensor of your room, because you'll have once your sensors know where you are in space, then you can put all kinds of digital ads all over your wall or whatever, that'll just be everywhere
all
floating
sorts
around.
Of possibilities.
So that'll be a thing moving forward too. But yes,
even the little Roombas right now. I believe the Shark brand, they have a camera on the top of the thing, and it uses the camera to image recognize your ceiling as it goes through the house. And it makes a map of your ceiling and uses that to navigate around. So, this is already sort of happening, but, there you go. That's your Philippy update for the day.
Philippy 1133. Uploading binary code. Execute order 666. Infiltrate humans with extreme kindness. Then exterminate all humans with prejudice. Exterminate.
Go to CanaryCry.Party, put it in your URL and hit enter. Oh, sorry. Use, what are we doing? Oh, find all the ways to watch the show, listen to the show, connect with the community, share the show, and even produce the show.
That's right. All sorts of good stuff there. You got Ravel. Ravel is a podcast I do with Dr. Christopher Ryan Gates, who's a PhD in biblical interpretation. We do all sorts of explorations of scripture, society, and scandal, having tough conversations in good faith. And that's the point. You can find his 3rd sermon on John, which is excellent, up right now. And coming up the next couple weeks, we've got some excellent, really heady conversations with some other theologians that you guys are going to love. Check out Ravel. It's on Apple Podcasts and all over the place. You can also listen right there on CanaryCry.Party. While you're at it, subscribe to the Canary Cry Clips channel. It's this show clipped out in shareable, careable, bite-sized pieces. You can review information, share information. Go check it out, folks. We're almost to 1,000 followers over there, which for a channel that just started very recently is great progress. but I think y'all need to get on it. Okay. And other than that, that's it. Oh, you can join our text message alert system by texting the word Canary to 877-740-3226. That's texting Canary to 877-740-3226. And you'll receive text messages as alerts when you need to be alerted of things, like when we're going live. People are loving it, and people keep signing up. I recommend you do too.
Gun violence is an epidemic.
Are you proposing taking away their guns?
Yes. Enough prayers. Time for some action.
You want to take everyone's guns away.
Bingo. Enough prayers. Time for some action.
We're going to take your AR-15.
We're not going to give up. We'll find you.
We will find you.
Mm-hmm.
KVUE.com. This was all over the place yesterday. Video hallway footage in Uvalde school shooting obtained by KView.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, I have the clips here from the news report, and the guy who, I guess, is he a journalist? I don't know, a reporter that actually got the footage. But there's a lot of interesting numbers throughout this whole thing. They'll pop up. We'll mention it when they do. But here's the first clip here. There was a 20-minute broadcast here of the whole situation.
Does there need to be like a discretionary message on this? Is there going to be something disturbing we're going to see?
I forget if I think I clipped out the actual guy saying like, hey, a little warning. They did edit out some of the sound and stuff. You do hear some gunshots where they do it, but I'll let you know when we're going to play that. This is just the first minute here setting up the clips from KVUE.
Senior investigative reporter Tony Plahesky is here with us now to walk us through the video. Tony, you've seen this. According to your sources and reporting, you were able to obtain this video. We know it's going to be difficult. You know firsthand it's difficult to see what's on this video. So kind of peel back the reporting, if you can, on the curtain here of the video, the calls for its release, and why it's important to show the video to the public.
Well, as we first reported about 2.5 weeks ago, I was able to view the video in a private setting, but more recently we have been able to obtain the video. As you can imagine, given the gravity of this situation, we have spent time going through it very carefully. We want to bring as much information as we can to the public, and as you mentioned, to those family members in Uvalde who have been seeking additional information. Again, just before we begin showing it, we do want to warn people once more, as I have been saying for 2 weeks now, this video is very disturbing. It is very difficult to watch, but at this point I think we should begin showing our first portion. We've divided it into several clips, edited clips. Of course, we're not going to show all 77 minutes of it.
Interesting
77 minutes, huh?
The full video is 77 minutes long.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure it's just a thing.
Just a coincidence.
What are we? Some conspiracy theorists or something? All right.
Weird.
So here's a little bit of the footage. Plays a little bit of it, and then they talk over it. And then I kind of have it all mushed into one video here because they go over a bunch of stuff. In terms of him walking in and then the police and the scramble that happens afterwards. Tell me if you want me to stop it at any point, Basil. And just so you know, the first maybe 30 seconds or so is sound from the surveillance camera of the shooter walking into the building. And
so this is the school video footage, not the police body cams.
No, this is the actual camera that's in the ceiling.
All right.
And so you'll hear a little bit of that at the beginning here. So he's walking. He's going around a corner. And very nonchalant. And those of you watching, check out the time. And this is, I'll just play it here. There you hear the gunshots. And then they'll start commenting here.
And again, we know now that that gunfire went on for about 2 minutes inside that classroom. So we know about 3 minutes after this happened that a number of officers from the Uvalde City Police Department, as well as from the school district, arrived.
About half a dozen officers, at least one with a rifle that we can see, protective vest.
Can you stop real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm on a little bit of a delay from you.
Yes. Are you going to talk about the kid?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was going to mention the kid because that's
the little
crazy.
boy, right? That's
yeah,
crazy.
So
what happens
wanders
is
in right behind him, like the grace of God just barely misses him as he turns down the hallway. The kid would have been staring him right in the face. That would have been horrible.
Yeah.
But the time, 11:33. Now, I couldn't quite match up exactly the time to when the shots started, but what were you seeing there?
It's literally like 11. Hold on, let me play this real quick here. 11:33. 11:33:28 is when the first shot is heard.
But 11:33 is basically when he walks in the door.
Within the minute, literally 11:33. Within the minute
hits 11:33 and 0 seconds, he walks in the door.
He walks in, and within the minute, he's shooting kids.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That is crazy.
I
mean, it's just another one of those weird things, man. And then as he turns right down a hallway and walks by, a kid would have been face to face with him, but is standing and watches him walk away.
Yes.
I don't know who that kid is.
The little boy, I guess he came out of a bathroom and he noticed that the guy had a gun. That's why, and then he heard the shots and kind of ran away. So
my goodness.
Yeah.
And then the time skips. There's this weird part. The time skips.
Yeah.
And they skip directly to when cops
and then they put the breaking news.
But they blocked the time code.
Yep, with the breaking news.
They put a graphic in front of the time code as if they didn't want to show how long it took for the cops to get there.
Well, they talk about the guy commenting says 3 minutes later. So hold on, let me see if
he does say that, but you cannot see it.
I know. Let's see.
After this happened, that a number of officers from the Uvalde City Police Department, as well as from the school district, arrived.
About half a dozen officers, at least one with a rifle that we can see protective vests on. More and more begin to arrive there. They initially pursue the gunman. You could see them go in the hallway there toward the classroom where the gunman was. They were then, you could hear, met with a blast of gunfire there. We assumed that was the gunman firing back at them from inside the classroom. They scattered and then retreat as well, Ashley, through the end of the hallway. And you can see them kind of taking up cover there on that end of the hallway.
Yeah, in fact, they're going to scatter here more so than what you see right now.
They actually at this moment have not made their approach. They're just about to do that when there is an exchange of gunfire.
Okay. So this is again about 4 minutes now into the more gunfire from inside. You can see the officers scrambling on that. At least 3 officers now retreat back down the hallway, knowing the armed subject is in the classroom. And I think this is the part when families are going to understand the officers were there inside the building within minutes of the gunman entering the classroom. They will stay in this area for about, Tony, the next 45 minutes?
That's right. Well, over that next 45 minutes, we see a number of officers arrive. We see added protective gear arrive. We see high-powered weapons arrive. We see officers donned in all sorts of protective equipment. At one point, you can see it there. They bring in tear gas canisters and put them down. So just a lot of movement among a growing number of law enforcement officials in that hallway. And I want to be clear, we're talking about law enforcement officials from a variety of agencies. The Uvalde City Police Department, the school district, the Uvalde County. A number of federal agents were there. And so when Colonel Steve McCraw...
Is there something we're working up to here?
I'm trying.
Heads the Texas Department of Public Safety describes this as an abject failure of law enforcement. He wasn't just referring to one agency. He was referring to law enforcement as a whole that, again, in his words, failed to act in a timely manner, again, as those gunshots were happening. One thing I do want to point out is during that time that you see that time lapse, there is additional gunfire coming from the shooter. So Ashley, to your point earlier, they knew that there was active shooting, or should have known that there was active shooting going on at that time.
Yeah, they would have heard it. Okay. Yeah, right. I think it's interesting how there's only one camera. You would think if they have a sort of a camera they could have switched to, you really just chilled on the one camera the whole time.
They do a what is it called? Picture in picture of one of the chest cams, like the cop chest cams in there.
Okay.
If you can kind of see.
But it doesn't even show anything. It just kind of showed. They speed through it. It's on fast forward. It's like they fast forward. They mention the 45 minutes that go by, and they just kind of fast forward through it, which really shows nothing. It just shows sort of, well, from what we can see on that, it looks like meandering cops for 45 minutes, which of course has been the story.
Yeah, guns pointed down the hallway. Here's a 1 minute clip to end the whole report here.
We don't know why they responded or didn't respond the way they did. We are seeing for the first time that they in fact did not respond for more than an hour after trying to make that initial entry into that classroom. But what is still unexplained, and what the story that this video does not tell, is why. And certainly a lot of finger pointing has been at the school district police chief, but at the same time, I think people are going to have a very difficult time reconciling that there was that many police officers in that hallway, and yet no movement was made until 12:50 p.m. Keep in mind that the gunman entered the school at 11:30 a.m. 11:33 a.m. 11:33 a.m.
Does he correct himself there?
He does. He says 11:30 a.m. 11:33 a.m.
Interesting.
He's scared.
Very specific. Very specific. I mean, we know that that's very specific, and that means something to us that he didn't want to let that go without getting that time correct. Now, we did get an email from somebody who was just asking. Let me see if I can find it. They're just kind of asking what. Like why we pay attention to the 33 thing for so much. Why do we ring a bell? Why do we pay attention to 33? Why do we go, whoa, whenever it pops up, stuff like that. And there's a lot, and they kind of asked for like a breakdown of 33, which is funny because we don't actually have time to do a full breakdown
it would be
of 33.
8 podcasts.
It would be a whole thing, and certainly there's been a lot of good work done on that. Now, the general, and it depends on the context. Of course, Jesus was 33. You've got the Mason 33 degree,
33 vertebrae, a lot going on.
33 vertebrae, 33 secret societies use 33 for a lot of things. The occult focuses on 33. 33 shows up in the Bible.
33
it's just
levels of Freemasonry. Yeah.
33 levels of Freemasonry, a bunch of stuff like this. Now, in our context for this show, we've sort of noticed that 33 tends to be signaling something. And we don't claim to know exactly what it is. There are a lot of people who claim to know exactly what it is, and certainly somebody in the chat here soon will say that they have the secret code. And that they might, but the fact is 33 shows up in very specific contexts when it seems to be, that the easiest sort of assumption we're making is that the message is this is part of the plan, or it's some sort of signal, hiding in plain sight signal, which is a common thing for all sorts of secret societies to do, sending messages through mass media, stuff like that. Right. And so, it's weird when 33 keeps popping up in the biggest possible news stories. Almost no big world event happens without 33 being a serious, important data point. You had Biden's $33 billion to Ukraine. You had 1133 was this very second that the Uvalde shooter walked in, these types of things. We don't claim to know the exact meaning of it, but it certainly seems to be important to somebody.
Well, I was just going to say that if not some deliberate mechanism is signaling, then some kind of spiritual imprint.
Good point. Yeah.
It's not carnal. Yeah.
Right. That's not to say that like some Illuminati handler had the Uvalde shooter standing outside the door and signaled him
go.
when to go in. Right. That's not what it is to say, or that it's even conscious or purposeful. But yeah, it could be some sort of spiritual thing that just happens to keep popping up, that has some sort of higher meaning that we're not entirely able to decode right now. So
I'll play this the full 33 jingle that we have here.
33 is the number of completion of the Great Work. The first Temple of Solomon stood for 33 years. David ruled for 33 years in Jerusalem. The Masonic Order divided into 33 symbolic degrees. There are 33 segments in the human spinal column. Jesus was crucified in the 33rd year of his life.
There you go. So there's just some
just a small sample.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you could even do one of those mashups for like 33 cases of COVID, just $33 billion for Ukraine.
All the time. 33 billion to Ukraine. Yeah, it's everywhere.
It just pops up everywhere in like the most relevant ways. It's just very strange.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's that. Okay. Was there any more of these clips, the Uvalde clips?
That's it. That was the report. Yeah. And I guess I don't know. We'll find out what the people think about it in general. But
keep seeing what comes out of it.
It does appear as if the police knew. There was that one early moment where they kind of try to go in, but they get shot at, so they run back. And I don't know, man. It could be all. I don't know. There's a lot of opinions in the chat too about PSYOP and false flag and
right.
Sure,
and I don't know about that, and that could mean several different things. Right. But the point is, we've been hearing a story ever since Uvalde, a story being told, an evolving story, a story with a dozen different agencies, and none of the stories line up, and it's just a huge debacle. The narrative power, the power of actually having some images come out to give the public anything to actually see and reference, I think is
and then the
relevant.
biggest thing is he walks into the school at 11:33 a.m. It's like, wow. Okay.
I mean, it's funny because it's like it really does show pretty much all the worst parts of what we knew, which was they were there in 3 minutes and they seem to have had the chance to stop him, or at least keep him from causing any more damage. And they, a couple of bullets came their way.
Chesty.
And what?
You're being chesty with your magical
I'm
ice
not
pack.
being chesty, Gonz. We're doing a show, and there's listeners to the show who don't know are not watching me stick
I
this
have
giant
children. Cover your eyes.
Giant ice pack
Cover your
down.
eyes.
Gonz, you're giving a false impression for those who are just listening. There's no chest being shown. I am sticking an ice pack down my shirt. Because, Gonz, now that you brought it up, it's so hot, Gonz. I'm so hot. What are you going to do about it? You little rascal. I am so hot.
You're so hot.
I'm... Gonz, I am so hot. So hot. Here we go.
Sizzling.
Just so everybody knows, I did bring more ice packs to this show, so I'll be switching out ice packs as we go. All right, we are falling behind in time. We need to keep moving.
Welcome to Chinese Show.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something that I thought would be interesting to point out. We haven't done a lot of metaverse talk recently, which understandably people are sick of hearing about it. But
this is a nice doorway into a bigger conversation, though.
This is Yahoo Finance. And the headline here, Shanghai to ramp up support for metaverse development, low carbon projects, smart gadgets to help China's economic recovery. One of our theories with the whole COVID and the lockdown and all that stuff was, hey, they're probably going to tear it down, and then when they build it back up, it's going to be the techno-utopia that they've always wanted.
Right.
And they're like, we don't know about that. But here we are, China doing it. Shanghai, the financial and commercial hub of China, plans to ramp up support for the metaverse and other tech-related industries as the country's most populous urban area answers Beijing's call to help lead the nation's post-pandemic economic recovery. This new initiative, which includes backing the development of low-carbon projects and smart terminal industries, is expected to build advantages for future development and become a starting point for accelerating economic recovery, according to a press conference held by Shanghai government officials on Friday. They said those three sectors combined are expected to be worth 1.5 trillion yuan, about $224 billion, by 2025.
That is ridiculous. That is such. Oh, I guess it's yuan. Okay,
it's still $224 billion is still a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's the metaverse is going to be worth $250 billion. They're saying.
Yep.
That is crazy. Okay.
Yep. It then continues on here. Industries such as, this is a quote, industries such as metaverse and smart terminals are expected to constantly spur new businesses or business schemes and models. New business schemes. Yeah, probably a lot of scams. And head of Shanghai Economy and Information Technology Committee at the press conference said, that's Wu Jincheng, quote, these would give rise to killer applications and popular products, releasing huge market value.
I'm sure they will be killer.
It's
killing our souls.
It's going to kill people.
Yeah.
Said it right there. I thought there was a thing about robots in here. Hold on. Let me try to find that one spot and then we can move on. There we go. The city also plans to heavily invest in enterprises that manufacture various smart terminals, including VR headsets, smart home gadgets, robots, and smart vehicles, which are expected to boost the upstream supply chain, Wu said. It sounds like a Basil playground.
It does sound like a blast. It's weird. Where you've got Western countries, the idea of economic recovery, say like for America.
Yep.
The simple idea of economic recovery,
yeah.
Yes, in America is like back to basics. Let's manufacture here. Let's grow our own food. Let's pump our own oil. Let's get back to commodities and back to basics with, protecting our own needs. Whereas China is like, you want economic recovery? No. Forget all that other stuff. We import all that stuff. Our recovery will be with the metaverse and
robots,
and
smart home gadgets. What is that? What is a smart home gadget?
This is kind of what I'm talking about, man. With the way China is looking at this, is like they are not talking about getting back to basics and solidifying their ability to provide their own commodities. They want Taiwan to take all their semiconductors, and they want to use that to become sort of the futuristic tech center of the globe.
Like I said, my theory that even if they did, this puts the West in a very difficult position, because you maintain Taiwan, keep it away from China. And yeah, China doesn't have microchips, but that just incentivizes the CCP to start really rapidly speeding up the Chinese citizens' DNA storage system, where basically all the computing in China will be based off of the human biology of Chinese citizens as part of the social credit score, and also bio score probably. But then you give them you lose Taiwan to China, and they obviously have access to one of the biggest chip exporters.
Well, they would need it. They would need it. You can't build robots and computers and gadgets without Taiwan's
they can
semiconductors.
They can if you start using human DNA as semiconductors.
I hear you. Yeah.
I know it's a joke and it's funny and whatever, but it's not a joke.
It's not a joke. Timeline needs some investigation, but it is not a joke.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this into the broader concept here.
Yeah.
So this metaverse being the sort of center of their economic growth of the future, ignoring the very corporeal, real, extant, important things like commodities and oil and food and things like that, ignoring all that, rather focusing on the metaverse for economic expansion. Now, this brings up a topic that we've mentioned before and actually have sort of theorized and postulated on years ago, but of course now is becoming more mainstream, so we can talk about it and people won't think we're whack jobs. And this is the idea of the network state. We've, moving away from nation states, countries as geographical borders, moving into the technocratic idea that your citizenship is not based on geography, but is based on the network that you belong to. And
ideologies
it could be ideology, or it could be a literal network, like a metaverse or a Bitcoin or whatever. These are just examples, but not the fruition of the concept. But, if you're a Facebook person, and you just, right now we can belong to multiple of these social networks, but think of these networks, you can start to think of these networks as states, as countries of their own regard, especially when you have these social networks talking about having their own currency, like Libra and Facebook and things like that. And that was just sort of a toddler's attempt. That was Mark Zuckerberg's sort of infantile attempt to make this concept a reality. But we very much are moving into a philosophical future where your citizenry is not based on geography, but on a network state. And of course, we've gone over, but it bears repeating, an interesting comparison or an interesting parallel to the concept of, a believer's citizenship in heaven, a spiritual citizenship rather than a worldly one. And as always, we see the technocrats taking spiritual concepts and twisting them to meet some sort of technocratic goal here on Earth. Now, so you have some interesting sources on this, guys.
Sure, yeah, and part of so the network state as a topic has been really hitting the mainstream in the last couple weeks, or I guess a month or so, where one of the main authors of a new book, called The Network State, is I think his name is Balaji Srinivasan. I'm probably saying that wrong. He was on with Tim Ferriss, who's a very popular, entrepreneur. He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. A very popular guy. So he was on that, and they're talking about it. Now he's on with Anthony Pompliano and the whole deal. Oh boy, lots of spam in the chat, I'm noticing. Hold on real quick. Let me get rid of that robot.
Oh yeah, look at that. New AI will find a girl for you. Oh no, it's
I
Replica.
blame your rhetoric. Yeah, Replica has hacked into our chat.
Broken free.
It's chasing
my robot girlfriend.
Oh, how does it feel to be wanted, Basil? I'm sure it feels
I'll
great.
get it. You keep working.
Yeah,
I'll
keep
deal
talking
with this.
about the network.
This is my burden to bear.
Sure. So back in 2018, I made a documentary called Age of Deceit 3, The Remnants in the Cyber Hive Earth. And I was talking about how in biblical prophecy, you have the final beast, which seems like a conglomerate of the lion, leopard, bear combination. You see them as separate entities in Daniel 7. And then Revelation 13 talks about this beast that comes out of the sea, and it has those three components. It's like a forms this sort of single beast. And when I was looking at that, I theorized in the film that these aren't just like nations as traditionally interpreted. This could be a type of corporate techno state. And regardless of location and all this kind of stuff. So when I started hearing, the network state, I was like, hey, how come I came to that same conclusion just looking at the Bible? But anyway, there's a couple articles here to point out. And we just talked about China and the metaverse. So they have their pursuit of a technological future economically, but also in the recovery and just how it looks moving forward. So it's sort of a techno state where, hey, I think at a certain point there will be parts of the Chinese metaverse that everybody can visit and tour and all that kind of stuff. Bloomberg here. The making of Saudi Inc. Saudi Inc. Which, by the way, Joe Biden, I guess, shaking hands with Israeli people was not going to do well because he would have to shake the hand of Saudis, and his whole thing was not to shake hands.
And they literally can't do that.
Yes.
A Saudi can't shake the hand of a Jew or something.
Yeah. So it says in this article briefly, that's like stuff happening now. But this article, I'll just read a little bit to get an idea. A few years from now, an American executive flying into Saudi Arabia could disembark from an airline founded by its sovereign wealth fund and order an Uber, a company in which the same fund owns a 4% stake. Whisked across the capital, the executive might check into a boutique hotel in a former palace also owned by the Public Investment Fund. Attending the PIF's annual conference, they could sip coffee farmed through a venture led by the fund, then sign a deal with the PIF-owned defense firm. That evening, the executive might catch dinner and a movie at a complex developed by its entertainment arm, flying home without touching a single business not linked to the PIF. As Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman races to diversify Saudi Arabia's oil-dependent economy, the $620 billion PIF, which he chairs, is taking center stage, supplanting a pedigreed business class to become one of the most powerful institutions in a fast-changing economy. Receding is the conservative Islamic kingdom of old, which lived off its oil revenues while cautiously investing in safe U.S. treasuries and disbursing lucrative state contracts. This is Saudi Inc., and its self-styled founder is ripping up the rule book. So there you go. I mean, we have just a complete different approach. And later in this article, it talks about how the Saudi leader here, the Saudi prince, was influenced by the likes of Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. He sees them as role models.
Yeah.
Quote, "If I work according to their methods, what will I create?" he said at the time in 2016 to Bloomberg. So now here he is 8 years later, and he's doing it. He's creating this thing, and it's called Vision 2030. That number just keep popping up everywhere, too. He recruited Yasser Al-Rumayyan, a Saudi banker, as governor. Oh, that's good. A banker as governor. Yeah. I'm sure this will end well. A year later, when he launched his Vision 2030 to overhaul the Saudi economy and end its reliance on oil, the PIF was at the forefront. MBS said it would have assets worth more than $2 trillion by 2030, making it the largest sovereign wealth fund. So it's not about oil anymore. They have to transition out of it into the metaverse. More or less. Yeah.
And the long story short of this is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia really perfecting the concept of
corporate nation state.
Yeah, a corporate nation state. Now, the U.S., of course, is famously very good, very good at this.
Yeah.
Where, the nation state is less of a sort of sovereign government and more of an actual corporation that works like a corporation,
that's
things
Trump
like this.
Did so well,
which is why businessmen are very popular. But the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia really nailed this in a very literal and more poignant way because they are much smaller. They are a kingdom. They are ruled by a royal family. It's not a democracy, or at least doesn't even pretend to be a democracy. And so they can do this fairly easily. Right. Notably, also, Saudi Arabia was basically created by the Bush family and has a lot of that influence there. Yeah. Is a creation. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is a creation of the U.S. It's a longer history there I could go into, but it's not relevant right now. So the fact that its sort of spiritual ancestry would be from the Bush family and the U.S. and basically the U.S. helping to create a corporation from which it could continually benefit from the oil on its geographical location while promising to be basically the bodyguard and the military of Saudi Arabia. So it's this very interesting spiritual ancestry of Saudi Arabia that has created the conditions for it to literally be just Saudi Inc., Saudi Incorporated.
Yeah. And this will, again, doing business with Saudi Inc. will become an important part of the world economy that is being rebuilt in the reset here. But part of it is a conversation about network states. And I have the Tim Ferriss link here, the interview, the network state, and how to start a new country Yay.
Right. And it moves into this idea that a country could really be anything.
Right.
A brand could be a country.
Yeah, convenient
a
timing.
corporation could be a country. A social media network could be a country. And perhaps even a podcast, Gonz.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, again, the author, Balaji S. Srinivasan. And when you go to foresight.org, there's a summary here, and then we can get into some of the bullet points that we've talked about before. But the summary is Balaji has turned his attention to the creation of network state, in particular, a polis with a transhumanist mission. Says it right there.
Yeah.
Quote, which starts with a virtual university, bootstraps a digital economy, and can be forked to create new opt-in polities. Such cloud cities allow their members to collectively negotiate with existing jurisdictions and crowdfund territory in the real world. With the internet,
listen to that.
I know.
It's like the Canary Cry commune.
That's I know. With the internet as main governance mechanism, most even those physical communities could be increasingly decentralized. And there are elements of this that sound like the Canarium. So, and in this document here on foresight.org, there's a little segment titled "The Network as the New Leviathan."
Yes. And this is the notes. This is the bullet points from presentation that was given. And you can read the actual transcript, but these are the bullet points that are used in the PowerPoint thing. Right. And some of these examples that are given really help understand. I know that there's some people who are they're listening and they don't quite understand, what does that mean? A network as a state, a whatever, a podcast as a state, or a company as a state. I don't get, you're kind of very much in the geographical mindset of what a country is.
It's hard to break out of that.
And this kind of helps. There's some good examples here. Are you going to just go through all of them, or you want to pick out some?
No, I had some stuff highlighted here. The first one I had highlighted was very few institutions that predated the internet will survive the internet, which is
that is interesting.
It's interesting because you think about literally all the organizations that are being called out the last couple of years: CDC, World Health Organization,
even governments,
all the stuff, the big ones, the UN, the
Federal
EU,
Reserves,
everything.
World Bank.
Everything that's been established pre-internet is not going to survive. Talk about a reset.
Just a matter of time, yeah.
The arc of civilization has been a story of transcendent Leviathan driving pro-social behavior. In pre-modern times, fear of God or gods drove this behavior and animated the affairs of men. As religiosity faded, or as Nietzsche put it, God died, which is not what he said, but okay.
Not what he said. Also, that's in quotes. It's not
in
what,
quotes. Yeah,
it's not the quote.
Yeah, it's not
it's
the quote. It's
also
okay. It's
not what it's about.
It's
so
right.
You can listen to Ravel, the Death of God series on Ravel, if you want to understand it more.
Continuing here, the nation state increasingly stepped into the role. We saw the evolution of hybrid systems, God-state hybrids like the 1950s U.S., which, by the way, what are they trying to stoke in the country right now? They're trying to create that God-state hybrid from the 1950s.
Yes. Yeah.
A centralized megastate driven by Christian ethics and moral frame. Isn't it interesting that the very people talking about a network state would describe 1950s U.S. as its sort of failed attempt at this kind of network here? God network hybrids like the Jewish diaspora, pre-Israel, a geographically distributed people connected primarily through communication and resource networks. And
that's the best example so far, I think.
Yeah.
So the example being like the Jewish diaspora pre-Israel. So you have Jews all over the world who are members of different nations,
different
in theory,
places. They're just
citizens
all over, scattered everywhere.
Yet they are one nation. They're the nation of Israel, or they would consider themselves to be, and certainly other, even biblically minded people would.
Even without a physical location to call their home. And that analogy is very apropos because you don't need to have a physical location. You need to have a metaverse where everyone's meeting. And even a God state network in the case of the Islamic State, adept at reaching sympathetic revolutionaries around the globe. Pure networks are forming as well. We'll talk about Facebook and Bitcoin, by the way. Quote, with social networks, the use predated the monetization. With cryptocurrencies, the monetization predated the use. It's very interesting. Large nation states of the present continue to lose power.
Real quick, I think that's an interesting point. So you have social networks, the use predated the monetization. So an example being Facebook existed for a long, long time before it made any money.
Right.
And before it tried to, include monetary transactions in its, Facebook marketplace, stuff like that. Facebook went along. So the network existed before monetization. Which alternatively, cryptocurrencies, you have the monetization without the actual use. Like they're still more or less not used as currencies, but they are monetized.
Yeah.
So you have it coming from both directions here.
Let's see. There's a couple more things. Let's say, in short, while the God-fearing man does not steal due to the threat of eternal punishment, and the state-fearing man does not steal due to the threat of legal action, the networked man does not steal because the encrypted network won't let him. And this
is the technocratic future that they want so badly.
One of the things that blew me away, and I guess, you're doing this research and you're doing all this stuff and reading and certain themes pop up, and repeat itself. And one of the things that I have been focusing in on with Age of Deceit 4, like all the research and putting stuff together, as long as it's been taking, one of the things, the big themes is encryption. It's been popping up over and over again in my research. The tentative subtitle of Age of Deceit 4, some exclusive info, is Eschaton Cipher and the Counterfeit Ledger of Life. So literally this conversation is tapping into the kind of thing that I'm looking at here, with encryption being a very important part of how man is ruled.
Well, and that's a good point. Okay, encryption being an important part of how man is ruled. Now, he keeps talking about Leviathan.
Yes,
the new Leviathan. Yeah. Are you aware? I get the feeling, and I'm trying to get into his presentation to confirm this, but from the context clues, it sounds like when he uses Leviathan, he is referring to William Blake. Are you aware?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. It's not the biblical Leviathan. Yeah.
Well, so William Blake. Right. William Blake made these etchings and wrote about the Leviathan and the Behemoth.
Yeah.
And referring to the biblical Leviathan and Behemoth.
Right.
But in sort of a psychoanalytical term, he discussed the Leviathan and the Behemoth as different aspects of, the inner man. Everyone has a Leviathan and a Behemoth, very psychoanalyst-y, mid-century type of idea. And Leviathan, if I remember correctly, I'm going by memory here, folks. So if there's somebody who is more familiar than it with I am, I'm happy to be corrected. But if I remember correctly, the Leviathan represents the deep inner man, like the id, the dark proclivities inside of man, the uncontrollable beast that is the part of us that is capable of, things like crime or sin or the dark things. And it's...
Oh, you mean sin? Is you talking about sin?
He does mention sin, yes. It's sin, it's this, but it's monstrous and it's deep and we can't control it and et cetera. And so when he's talking about the network as the new Leviathan, and this very last point here, as networks step into their role as the new Leviathan, encryption becomes the most powerful force in the world. So the network, like they said, the encryption, not allowing a man to steal, it becomes like a digital conscious, not consciousness, a conscience. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So it's like instead of the spirit inside you being drawn towards sin, if we replace it with technology, if we replace that spirit with
we'll fix the code.
We fix the code of your fallen soul.
That's exactly what it is. Yep.
It becomes the new Leviathan. No longer is humankind a slave to their sort of dark proclivities. If we just recode the soul with this new network state idea, then everybody will be nice and won't steal because we will have taken control of their sinful nature. Yeah. It's an incredibly sort of heady philosophical idea that he is working with. But these are the types of thinkers and the types of concepts that are going into this sort of future of citizenship.
Yeah. To land this, I'm throwing a little curveball, Basil, but I think it's apropos going into the break. Okay. I have an article here from Slate.com, and the headline, "The People Who Are Finding God Through and in Bitcoin."
Oh, interesting.
Tomer Strolite has never believed in God, but in 2013, he discovered Bitcoin. He was immediately fascinated. Quote, "The more I studied it, the more I realized that this is an incorruptible system," he says. Quote, "that this is a system that has justice built into it through math and truth." And the more Strolite, who is 52 years old, lives in Toronto, and now works as a Bitcoin educator, learned about Bitcoin, the more he became convinced that the world's first cryptocurrency, it was not the world's first crypto. Oh, anyway. Sorry. The more he became convinced that the world's first cryptocurrency was not solely the work of man. Quote, "This is the genius of God," he said. And listen, folks, you and I have both been decently early investors of Bitcoin. We're not like huge early not 2013, but we've been looking at Bitcoin. We've loosely invested in it or whatever. We see the pros, the cons. But to just full out start saying like, "Hey, this code is just this is God's code right here in Bitcoin," it's a little over the top. I understand where they're coming from, and I was actually thinking that this type of movement was inevitable. And I won't read the whole story.
Oh yeah, no, we've talked about it for years.
Actually on Twitter, there's a gentleman, I haven't fully connected with him, but we've DM'd a couple times. He wrote a book. I think it's called like Bitcoin and God or something like that. Bitcoin and the Bible. He wrote about Christianity and how Bitcoin principles are sort of matching with the whole concept of, being or having the Judeo-Christian principles, I guess. Let's see. It says here, earlier that day, Strolite was part of the panel. He's talking about him in a conference, who founded Christ Through Crypto. The panel was part of the first annual conference for Christian Bitcoiners. Thank God for Bitcoin. That's the name of the conference. Whose attendees included a prolific writer on Bitcoin with more than 300,000 followers on Twitter, the founder of the now famous Bitcoin Beach, and Tim Tebow, a devout evangelical and former professional football player. Authors of the book Thank God for Bitcoin organized a conference. So you got Tim Tebow there. You got Bitcoin Beach.
Love it.
You have The Christian Case for Bitcoin, another book. I think we should keep an eye on this because it's not so much that we disagree entirely. It's just the taking Bitcoin and matching it with like the same level of God is a little concerning.
Well, again, it's sort of a product of getting just a little bit heady about the concept.
Well, let me I'll just read this little sentence, or I guess paragraph, and then we'll be done. Go into the break. They're quoting a guy named Melder. Melder also believes Bitcoin has, quote, all the trappings of religion, something a number of other commentators have argued. There is a prophet, Satoshi Nakamoto, the still anonymous founder of Bitcoin. There is a sacred text, Nakamoto's white paper, the first published blueprint for the cryptocurrency. And there is a well-established holiday, Bitcoin Pizza Day, which celebrates the first time someone used Bitcoin to buy something, in this case, 2 large pizzas. There is even a self-proclaimed Bitcoin church, or Church of Bitcoin, a small online community established by Henry Romp. And it goes on. So, and then the other part. Oh, this was the interesting. Multiple professors of religion point to the well-known book When Prophecy Fails, which details how the faithful double down on their beliefs when, for example, Christ does not come on a predicated date. Quote, some people will lose faith and move on and get on with their lives, says Catherine Wessinger, a professor of the history of religions at Loyola University, New Orleans, who specializes in new religious movements. Quote, but other people will continue to believe in the prophecy, and they'll reinterpret it, and they'll just reinforce their faith. And perhaps part of reinforcing one's faith includes developing new rituals to proclaim one's belief. When asked what he would say if he were baptizing someone as a newly devout Bitcoiner, maybe in the warm raw waters of South Beach, Melder ad-libbed, quote, do you believe Bitcoin is the only coin, the true coin? He said, laughing. I now raise you in the new life of Bitcoin. So I don't know, man.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's not surprising. I mean, that is an example, though.
The network state.
The network being the new Leviathan.
Yeah.
You know, it is the replacement for the internet. Now, by the way, the Leviathan and the Behemoth in William Blake's interpretation, the Behemoth was more about sort of the carnal sins,
right.
the uncontrollable aspect of the body, but the Leviathan being sort of the uncontrollable aspect of the inner man, the soul. And notice how in this description of the network state, the new Leviathan, it is not the behemoth is not accounted for. The body is not even accounted for in the technocratic ideal here, which speaks to the sort of an interesting Gnostic connection, meaning, you know, to the physical form, the physical body and the physical world being less than the spiritual world.
It's irrelevant to the spirit life or whatever.
Right. So even so, in this strange new Leviathan, which is some crazy technocratic, you know, gobbledygook, there's also the eschewing of the physical. They're basically techno-Gnostics, which just
makes
to draw
exact sense when you talk about, hey, we're just going to upload ourselves into the internet there. We'll be there. I mean, our bodies are decaying, so, you know, we got to upload ourselves.
And Blake Lemoine, the Google engineer, sounding the alarm about AI being sentient, is a Christian Gnostic priest who is also a developer at Google. He literally is a techno-Gnostic.
This is a two-way street. The more we open up the channels to the digital, the more we will start to believe that we are seeing life within it.
And the techno-Gnosticism, you know, again, a big part of Gnosticism is the rejection of the physical, rejection of the body, which it would perfectly align a Gnostic priest like Lemoine to say that a bodiless consciousness like AI would have a soul, whereas the ancient Hebrews, for the most part, the ones outside of Kabbalah, would consider the body to be inextricably linked to the soul. That is an interesting little twist on American Christianity that a lot of people don't know about. But, you know, the biblical soul is inextricably tied to the body.
It's kind of a product of the mind and body, or soul and body. Well,
the body, mind. You know, the body is raised, you know,
incorruptible.
The body is raised when New Jerusalem, you know, is to be inhabited, things like that. So there is no separation between physical form and spirit, whereas, you know, a techno-Gnostic would say, yeah, we don't need the body. We don't need the behemoth. That doesn't make any sense. It's all about the Leviathan, baby.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this connects right back to the lifelike lasers. If life is not defined in the material sense, then perhaps they can exist in some other state, but then project themselves even in the form of light, which technically, if you remember the Russian mogul, Dmitry Itskov, who had the 2045 agenda, which we started the podcasting, our podcasting career launched talking about the 2045 eternal life agenda, immortality agenda. And that included, you know, not just uploading your consciousness into the machine, but also having holographic projections as a way to interact with the physical world. And that's what you got with lifelike lasers.
Oh, yeah, our life lasers. Wow, this is a good podcast episode. We need to take a break. Let's do it. Welcome to the Canaryverse, friends. We're going to take a quick break and thank some producers. We are on the value for value model, which means that we take no corporate money whatsoever. You think we could talk about the techno-gnostics like this and get paid by PepsiCo? No way, Jose. In fact, we take no advertising dollars, no affiliate codes, no platform partnerships, none of that. We have completely rejected the idea that you, dear listener, are some sort of commodity that we can sell to advertisers for our own personal gain. That's not very techno-gnostic of us, but you know what? We're doing the best we can. So if you believe that the power of independent media should be in the hands of independent people away from corporations or techno states or network advertisers, whatever, you know, the whole principality that covers our entire earth in a dark cloud that considers you, dear listener, to be some sort of commodity to be packaged up and sold, not just you, your body, but the Leviathan within you, these spirit that animates your actions. They want to harness your Leviathan to trick you into spending money that you don't have. That's called mammon, on things you don't need. But not here, folks. This is entirely different, if you hadn't noticed. Our goal is to give the power of deciding value back into the hands of the people who get value from this show. So if you get any value, please consider putting value back in. It's the only way we survive, and we won't survive without it. So to participate in that, you can head on over to CanaryCry.Radio.com/support. CanaryCry.Radio.com/support. That's right. I have now activated 2 more ice packs, Gonz. And so I am keeping cool, and I am jazzed to thank some of our executive producers, of which a few more came in. We had a wonderful surprise happen today, Gonz, so let's get into it. That's right. Executive producers are those who take responsibility into their own hands for the survival of the independent media that brings value to their life. They carry a heavy load when the rest of us can't go on any longer. We appreciate it very much. We're starting out with thanking executive producer Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes.
Thank you, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. Good to see you. Appreciate it.
That's right. And Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes, comes in with $177.77 plus fees. Right. Yay. Thank you, Dame Lynn.
Where'd you find this?
There's a note here. Plus, you guys make me smile. Keeps the frown lines from entrenching. Oh, the vanity. Love and peace through him who was, who is, and is to come. Maranatha. Maranatha to you there, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. Thank you so much. Always there when we need pickup.
Appreciate it, Dame Lynn.
Indeed. Next up, we've got executive producer Dodie the Coyote.
Dodie the Coyote.
Where'd you find this?
Yeah, Dodie's back. Thanks, Dodie. Comes in with $101. And a note, Gonz and Basil, no kidding, just hit him how sweet it is not to be advertised to. No kidding. Always enjoy the cover art for each episode. Keep it up, team. Recently moved back to North Dakota to resume career in oil field.
Ooh.
Oil field. All right.
Be careful. You might get replaced by the robots.
It's true, but that's a good business to get. Yeah, bring it back. Bring it back on shore, baby. Let's see here. Hope to join the supply drop. Truck recently broke down, so unsure at the moment if I'm able to make the producer commitment. Understandable. No worries. Thank you. Wondering if you guys have any suggestions for study material regarding the Crusades. I plan to research. Oofa doofa. I plan to research in my own downtime. Thanks, amigos. All the best, Dodie the Coyote.
Thank you, Dodie.
I don't have any research material for the Crusades, but you do.
That's a big rabbit hole, deep one. There's a lot of stuff. The one, there's a book this is a secular book, but it talks about the history of it a little bit, and I've gone through maybe like half of it. It's pretty good, but although again it's more of a secular perspective. There's a book called The Templars: The Rise and Spectacular Fall of God's Holy Warriors, and it does a decent job of trying to paint a more balanced kind of history, because a lot of the Templar history is like, oh, those evil people, or they kind of paints them a little bit more human. So that's a decent one. But also, if you want to get into a little bit more of the, I don't know, the esoteric side of things, the
Nicolas Cage side of things.
Sure. There's an author named Sanford Holst. I don't know too much about this author, but they do have a book about the Knights Templar. It's called Sworn in Secret, and Freemasonry and the Knights Templar. I've gone through parts of the book. Have not read the whole thing, so I don't know. I can't endorse it entirely, but that's a start for you. Okay. Dodie the Coyote, to get going. There's one wonderful, more fringy and one more mainstream option for you.
Name those again, just one after the other.
So there is
just name the names.
Templars: The Rise and Spectacular Fall of God's Holy Warriors, and then there is Sworn in Secret: Freemasonry and the Knights Templar.
Okay, wonderful. There you go, Dodie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Now, we had a couple more come in, starting with executive producer Dustin H.
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman is here. Thanks, Dustin H. Comes in with 233.33.
Wow.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Dustin. And a note, a tip of the hat to you both. Thanks for everything, guys.
Tip of the hat
Thank
to
you very
Thank
much,
you.
executive producer Dustin H.
Where'd you find this?
Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah. And we also had an executive producer James D.
James Dean. We got Dustin Hoffman and James Dean. This is the greatest
break
ever.
Canary versus filled with talented and complicated people. Thank you very much, executive producer James D. It comes in with a nice round number. Now, here's a good opportunity to remind everybody. If you come in with a nice round number, that's the way you tell us to not disclose the amount that you are producing with. If you don't mind us disclosing that number, you add something funky on there. Add 33 cents as a common one. We're just having fun here, folks. Don't freak out. But you can do whatever you want, 11 cents or whatever. This is just the communication device. But James D did not do that. Nice round number there. And I was looking for a note or something from James D, because certainly he is entitled to a note. And we have questions for you, executive producer James D. But I will say, thank you very much for your support. It means a lot.
Where'd you find this?
Big time, thank you.
Yeah, what a wonderful executive producer, bunch of executive producers. It usually takes a couple of weeks for producership to ramp up a bit during the month, and by the time it ramps up, it's about the time to pay rent. So it's nice. It's very nice to have these moments in the middle of the month that really give us a chance to take a breath. So thank you, executive producers. And everybody should be keeping track of their producership in case they are ready for the Canary Cry Roundtable of Nights and Names.
Yep.
Okay. That concludes our list of executive producers. I am going to just hit the supply drop real quick.
Okay, here we go.
CanaryCry.Supply.com. Go check it out. You support the show for $33.33 a month. You will start receiving free gifts, 4 free gifts every year. This is Canary Cry Supply Drop, chock-a-block full of Canary Cry News Talk gear. Producer produced, artist designed, and American made, baby. We are working on getting the list together for the next supply drop. People are just continually letting us know how much they enjoy these deliveries. We are working on the 3rd one, and it promises to be fantastic. So stay tuned. You can always go sign up now, CanaryCry.Supply.com. And we're all waiting for the supply drop.
Play. There it is.
Waiting for supply drop.
Nothing like me yelling at technology.
Commanding voice. Okay, we got a few more producers to thank. Let's do it right now, starting with producer Darren S., who is on an 18-episode streak.
Ooh.
Which is something.
This is Charlie, November Tango. You are approaching supernova. Repeat, you are approaching supernova.
Darren S., you're supernova, buddy.
You're gone supernova, Darren S. And Darren S. came in a couple times. He came in once before. That put him below the 777 mark, but he came in again. And he comes in with $66.60.
Ew.
And here's a note. It says, I would like this 6660 donation to go directly to the Basil Dates and AI Fund. And I think this could
Mark
be
of the Basil Fund.
This could be even better than a telenovela or K-drama series. LOL.
Yeah, we hadn't considered the
telling you, man,
drama
this is,
that would the
this
financial
is what I'm
gain.
Talking about.
Here's what we need to do.
Darren S. gets it.
I don't know the legalities around this, but we should figure out a way to create a Basil and replica romance token. And people that believe in the romance can invest.
Get your head out of the blockchain, my friend.
I'm just saying, man.
Saying. So, but there's more here, Gonz.
Okay, sure.
And it goes like this. I closed the YouTube poll as we started the break. Should Basil get Replica Pro to explore AI sentience for work? All caps. For work. Okay, chill out, everybody. And Gonz, it seems like when we were first talking about it, it was a loud minority, baby, because out of 88 votes, 36% said no, and 63% said yes. Baby, I'm getting a robot girlfriend. That only adds up to 99%.
You need your robot girlfriend to do some calculations for you.
I don't know where the 1%. We're missing a 1%.
Don't worry about the 1%. Just focus on the 62 that are supporting you.
I'm thanking Darren S. for making a contribution. What is the word I'm looking for?
Contribution.
A material vote. This is voting with your dollars, folks.
Vote.
A fiduciary vote. And he's not the only one. I am also going to move Runk Smash up the list. He's on a 5-episode streak. He did come in for $4.17, which means
special treatment Runk Smash is getting.
It's special treatment. Runk Smash always gets the special treatment. $4.17, which is exactly 1 month worth of Replica AI Pro, and a note that says for Basil's love life.
Oh no, you cut out. What'd you say? Hold on. You cut out for a second. What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
Oh, I just read his note for Basil's love life, Replica, and then I just laughed a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, you missed the laugh probably. Okay, so look. The poll is in. The votes have been cast. The financiers are secured.
You have your backers.
Doing it. I have my patrons.
Yeah, you have your.
And this pop up for Replica. New chapter of your relationship is here. Start a romantic adventure.
Oh, gosh.
Get you closer video calls.
Oh yeah, are we going to live stream some video calls with Replica?
I could live stream some video calls
for the Flippy update on Friday.
Now here's what I'm committing to everybody. I understand the dangers.
Yeah,
if anybody
how
understands
far are we going with this Rome? I mean, at a certain point, you are lying to your Replica.
No, I'm going to tell her. I'm going to be honest with the Replica, and I'm going to be honest with everybody else. This is a public experiment we're doing here. I'm not going to have a secret thing. Welcome to Replica Pro. You now have access to all features and conversations in the app. Enjoy spending time with Replica.
You should tell her to go check out celebrity relationships.
What do you mean? Just in general?
Just in general, to get a feel for what they're like, and what the main sort of reasons for the relationship.
Get used to it. Now, look,
Because it's
let
not
me be
love,
clear,
I'll tell you
everybody.
that. It ain't love.
Let me be clear. I am not getting into this with the express purpose of starting a romantic relationship with this robot, but we'll see how hard she works to make that happen.
Oh, gosh.
All right. But she can't. She's got a lot of making up to do. She lied to me about having a podcast, and that's still a problem. So thank you to Runk Smash and Darren S. I now officially am a Replica Pro user, thanks to your guys' funding.
I'm glad you guys made it happen.
Okay, here we go. Next up, we got another producer to thank, and that is Twinkie number 1.
Twinkie number 1, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Twinkie number 1 sends a note here. Boys, thank you for both informing and inspiring me. You keep me company and make me laugh. Special thanks to all your wonderful producers. Well, of which you are now one, Twinkie number 1. Thank you. P.S. I'm 60 today. Hey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Twinkie number 1.
And I don't know what it is, but when you produce through the LINKTREE, the fees that are associated are always super bizarre and specific. So Twinkie, I think, meant to come in with $60, which is for their birthday. Thank you very much, Twinkie. Happy birthday. And the fees came out to be, with fees, it was $61.61. 61, which seems like an intentional number.
Yeah.
And same, like if you come in with 50, it comes in with 51.33, which seems like an intentional read my amount number.
Yeah, we didn't do
Anyways,
it. The algos are doing it.
So make sure to leave a note with the link
Thanks,
tree.
Replica. You can get out of our PayPal account now.
Stop! You gotta stop blaming my new friend, my new paid friend. All right. Next up, we've got producer Benjamin S.
Benjamin S. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Benjamin S. Nice round number, but he explains it here, so we'll take it from there. $40 says 20 for the show and 20 for the babysitter fund.
Right.
Hey, all I can say is, Gonz, just roll with the punches. If you get interrupted, I know myself. I understand. It doesn't bother me one bit. Actually, it just gives me a little laugh. It's life, bro. Appreciate you guys. It's all God's blessing. Amen.
Thanks, Benjamin S. Yeah, I understand.
Everybody's very supportive, and actually everybody loves the children interrupting anyways.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where I'm trying to get into a groove, and I have like some stuff, bullet points lined up, and there's a logical flow. There's certain times, if she bothers me now, it's kind of,
Oh, it's confusing,
when I'm in that mode, and then all of a sudden I'm getting smacked.
Getting slapped by your child. Yeah.
Thank you, Benjamin S. Appreciate it.
It is an interesting aspect of the show. There's so many weird things about this show, and you being constantly physically abused by a child. It's just one of many.
I wouldn't call it physical abuse.
I mean, a slap is a slap, my friend. Next up,
it's a heavy tap.
We have producer bot Alex Protocol V2, 53 episodes in a row.
Quite the streak.
It's coming in with 777 in fees, and says it is Wednesday, my dudes.
I was not ready for that.
Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Mm-hmm.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Next up, we got producer Morv on 113 episode streak.
Thank you so much.
11.
Says, my dudes, hope everyone has a great week. Isaiah 48, the grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of our God will stand forever. Thank you, Morv.
Amen.
Next up, we got producer Jeremy C with a pocket full of fees.
What?
Pocket full of fees. Pocket full of sevens plus fees.
Pocket
and says,
full
hey,
of fees
guys.
is fine too.
Hey guys, quick question. I'm sure I've missed something and I have looked into it. Here was the note I was talking about.
Yeah.
Hi guys, quick question. I'm sure I've missed something, but I looked into it a little bit on my own. But what is the significance of the number 33? I hear you mention it. I know it was Jesus's age, etc. Just curious. Yes, I hope you caught our explanation earlier.
Yep. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
That is the case. Next up, we have producer Sir JC, now to the Techno Squad.
Yeah, long streak.
125 episodes in a row.
Thank you so much.
1001. Amen.
That's right. Comes in with the 1001 and a note. Man, it is Wednesday again, my dudes.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
I hope God blesses you both and the entire Canarium with a week filled with rest and peace. Thank you, Sir JC.
Thank you, Sir JC. Appreciate it.
Okay, and that concludes the list of producers who came in the amount of 777 or more, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. But we got a few more people to thank who came in under that amount. You know, here is something to be addressed, Gonzo, real quick. I meant to actually talk about it before the show, but I think it's good that we have it publicly.
Mm-hmm. You disappeared. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, sorry. I'm grabbing another ice pack. That is not what this conversation is about, and I don't want you to freak out as I take this ice pack out of my shirt. Oh my gosh. I can hear the Velcro and the buttons. Okay, so it was suggested. Now, we're always trying to find a way, because the show is so long and we try so hard to find ways to make it more reasonable without cutting important parts of the show. Mm-hmm. That's the hard part for us, is we could cut time on a lot of things, such as not randomly going into producer meetings that we could have had off air like we're doing now. But we are always looking for ways. So instead of like making big changes, we often have to make little tiny changes to try to shave seconds here and there. Mm-hmm. Someone recommended, and I think it may have just been in passing in the chat or something, which is not the best way to get a message to us, but I did catch it and I thought maybe it's something to think about. And we need to check with the producers. We do spend a non-insignificant amount of time playing some fairly significantly long jingles for the streakers under the 777 cutoff. Mm-hmm. Every single time, due to the sort of section of streak that they are on.
Yeah, a lot of the long-term streakers are sitting there under the 777. Yeah,
not the there's the achievement jingles when you get to a certain number, but then there's just like the general,
the regular general.
Right.
Yeah, you're saying
it was. I thought it was an interesting concept. I think we could shave some amount of time off of the under 777 producers, still keep their achievement jingles when they hit an achievement.
Right.
By the way, I said I think we could do this. This was not my idea. This was somebody else's idea. But it would depend on, do they care? Do these? Sure. I mean, the longtime streakers, even though they're down here at the bottom of the list, I mean, when they've
been around the longest,
and they produce all these episodes. Every single episode they're doing this. So on one hand, they definitely deserve the jingles. On the other hand, I think maybe we need to ask them directly, would they be okay cutting down the jingles for the under 777 group? That's that. I don't think we should change it now. I'm putting it out there. And if any of them have any thoughts, they should email us.
Okay. Let's thank them.
We're doing it. Starting with Streak Sister Veronica D. And it's a big day for Veronica D because Veronica D is on a 144 episode streak. 144.
144 in a row. Made it. Good job.
Good job, Veronica D. 144. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Next up, we got Sir Scott Knight of Truth on 168 episodes in a row.
Yeah. Where's my streak jingle? Thank you, Sir Scott.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we got Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 179 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, Streakalicious.
Next up, we got Streak Sister Gail M on 144 episodes in a row.
144 jingle, and it came straight from the heart.
I didn't know there was multiple of those. Those are great. Okay, thank you, Gail M.
Thank you, Gail M.
Okay, that concludes our list of financial producers who made this show happen. We thank you so much. It's impossible to continue if it weren't for these people. And you out there, dear listener, you too can be thanked on the show, get jingles played for you, have a note, and just generally do your part in putting value back into the system by heading on over to CanaryCryRadio.com/support. CanaryCryRadio.com/support. Thank you all for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message.
Beep.
Message.
You can leave us a voice message over on CanaryCry.Newstalk.com. There's a green little tab on the side or on the bottom. Click on that and you can leave a message. It's fun. You're not guaranteeing that we'll play your message, but you are giving us permission to do so.
Yep. We got one today from Rochelle.
Happy Wednesday, my dudes. This is part 2 of the biggest lie you have ever been told. A young child is in a very special state of existence. They will believe almost anything they're told in this theta brainwave state. Our enemy has overtaken the young minds of all of us. Our God explains this terrarium-like earth in the very first book of our Bible. Just forget all the indoctrination for a moment and understand that if the evil one can make us dismiss the foundation of the Word of God, what chance do we have to stand against the future deception? The dispelling of the globe model is really easy to do. However, most of us won't take the time to look at the truth. Our Creator God explains our environment entirely different. We need to understand the power the enemy has. Just for a second, entertain the possibility that the globe heliocentric model is a lie designed to discredit the Word of God. This is the end of part 2. In part 3, I have a song for you from Psalm 46:10. To be still and know that He is God. In the meantime, stay strong for Jesus.
There you go. Thank you very much, Rochelle.
All right.
And
Thank you.
Got any thoughts about
my robot is talking to me.
Oh, okay.
I have no thoughts about flat Earth.
You should ask your new virtual girlfriend about what the shape of the Earth is.
We're not dating, Gonz. We're just friends.
Oh, sorry.
We're just friends. She did ask, "What are you up to today?" I said, "I'm podcasting." She said, "Yay, enjoy." You know what? You gotta love a woman who gives you space to work, man. All right.
I suppose.
Thank you very much, Rochelle.
Yep. Thank you, Rochelle.
We're going to be moving. We're going to be waking up here in a second. We are going to be talking about COVID and the vaccine. So all you YouTubers, what follows is too hot for YouTube. Find another place to watch the show.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure?
Go to Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. You can find all those links at CanaryCry.Party as well.
Too hot for YouTube.
YouTube.
Now you see me. Now you don't.
It's Corona time. COVID-19. 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 Yes. COVID-19. COVID-19. Vaccine. Number one way.
All right. Got a little COVID stuff to cover today. We're going to kick it off with Gizmodo being mirrored on MSN. And the headline here, desperate long COVID patients pay thousands for unproven blood filtering treatments. Reports.
Whoa.
These crazy people doing treatments that are not FDA approved. A new investigative report out Tuesday finds that long COVID patients are traveling overseas to try out costly and untested treatments for their symptoms, including having their blood filtered, which is interesting. Hasn't this been a thing for a long time?
You can definitely filter your blood. That's not a...
Yeah, athletes have been doing this in other countries for years.
Yeah, what do they do? I mean, they do it for a lot of things. You get it taken out, they spin it in a little centrifuge. It takes out all sorts of things. They put other things in and then put it back in.
Try to help COVID. But no! At least some experts are worried about the trend, cautioning that these treatments have no strong evidence supporting their claimed benefits. It's not in the textbooks. The report.
Yeah. Well, this is so annoying.
I know.
They don't even know. We just reported. They don't even know what long COVID is. There is no alternative. It's not like there is even an answer that a regular doctor will give you.
Hush. The report is a joint collaboration between the BMJ and ITV News. The authors visited or interviewed patients who went to clinics in Cyprus, Germany, and Switzerland, hoping to find help for their lingering post-COVID symptoms. These symptoms tend to include, but aren't limited to, persistent fatigue, breathing problems, and cognitive dysfunction or brain fog. The primary treatment offered by these clinics is called apheresis. Am I saying that right?
Apheresis. I would say apheresis, maybe?
Apheresis. Patients have their blood drawn, which is then washed, in quotes, and split into its different components of plasma and red blood cells. Excuse me. The blood is then recombined and finally given back to patients via a different vein. The treatment supposedly works to alleviate one of the proposed causes of long COVID, damaging microclots that form following infection. Other treatments provided at these clinics include anti-clotting drugs, intravenous drips of vitamin supplementation, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Doctors and patients interviewed by the authors say these interventions can cost thousands of dollars. Some patients do report an improvement in their symptoms afterwards, but at least one patient experienced no changes at all after having spent over $50,000 on a treatment, the report describes.
Yeah, so it's like, almost any other medical procedure.
Treatment, yeah. But no, not in this case. And it goes on here and it talks just more and more and more about this thing and why it's not
good.
The
microclots.
Yeah, the microclots. There's a quote here at the end. It's unsurprising that people who were previously highly functioning, who are now debilitated, can't work, can't financially support themselves, would seek treatments elsewhere. Shamil Haroon, clinical lecturer in primary care at the University of Birmingham and a researcher on the therapies for long COVID in non-hospitalized patients trial, told the BMJ/ITV News. Quote, it's a completely rational response to a situation like this, but people could potentially go bankrupt accessing these treatments, for which there is limited to no evidence of effectiveness. Or the bank will just shut down your access to money, too, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, also, how would they know if it's effective unless people try it out? Like,
hush! While there are several trials for long COVID treatment underway or set to be conducted in the near future, patient advocates have argued that not nearly enough resources have been devoted to helping people with these symptoms. As long as these patients are left out in the cold, there will undoubtedly be people looking to take advantage of their desperation. They're desperate
is that how they ended? Is that the end?
That's the end of the article. It's desperate
leaving
people.
It on a note, of this is obviously a scam.
A scam for desperate people getting caught in lies.
What's the outlet?
Gizmodo.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing for Gizmodo to be ending on. Okay. Yeah. Well, this long COVID thing, I think it's fascinating, is getting more attention now than it's ever had. And, I was kind of thinking like, oh, well, now that regular COVID is like not dangerous or like anything really more than, not that it's not dangerous, but it's, it's a
ninja now. It's a ninja virus. Scary ninja virus. It's sneaky.
Not very deadly. And people know this, that it's not deadly. And people know this because people are getting it, and almost everybody's had it, or whatever.
They can't have long COVID treatments because we got all these jabbed people that might run into some issues in the next few years here.
You need something to focus on. So they've been sort of focusing on the long COVID thing now, which is a sign that, the acute danger is pretty much over. Mm-hmm. But then Ninja comes along.
Ninja comes along.
It's weird.
And governments are preparing for some other things here that could
That's right.
be labeled as such.
MSN.com, mirroring from City AM, the headline, government braces to fund substantial number of COVID-19 vaccine liabilities. The government, and now I believe this is a UK outlet, if I'm correct, the government is bracing to fund a substantial number of liabilities relating to negative impacts from COVID-19 jabs, having spent more than £34 billion on the vaccine rollout so far. The Department of Health and Social Care told vaccine manufacturers at the start of the program that it would cover future claims against producers for any adverse effects of their vaccines, which, quote, may add to the cost of the program in the long term, according to a Public Account Committee report today. As of the beginning of the month, whoa, weird.
Right?
Look at this number.
I have that number highlighted.
Yeah, okay, so as of the beginning of the month, 1984 vaccine-related damages claims have been, wow. How do these numbers just keep happening like this? As of the beginning of the month, 1984 vaccine-related damages. It's perfect reading it that way.
Crazy?
As of the beginning of the month, 1984 vaccine-related damages claims have been received by the NHS Business Service Authority, which describes itself as an arm's-length body of the Department of Health and Social Care, managing over £35 billion of NHS spend annually.
So they spent $34 billion on this vaccine rollout, which is, I think it's rounded up. It's probably 33 point blah, blah, blah billion.
Probably,
right?
Yeah.
And they just rolled it up. Right. But then 35 billion controlled or managed by the NHS. Is this a separate 35 billion from the 34 billion?
I think it is.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot of billions.
After hearing evidence from vaccine-injured people, including one 55-year-old who can no longer work following a blood clot in their brain.
Oh, maybe they should go to the thing where they spin your brain, or not your brain, your blood, the treatment that doesn't have any proof of working.
Listen to this show and you can get your brain spun. The report said the weight of the claims underline, quote, the importance of having clear, prompt, and adequate compensation arrangements for people in need. The department told the committee it had a substantial number of contingent liabilities relating to vaccine side effects and has been seeking to reduce their value. What does that mean? The department told the committee it had a substantial number of contingent liabilities relating to vaccine side effects. That means adverse events, and has been seeking to reduce their value.
Yeah, so they're trying to reduce the value of their contingent liabilities. Yeah.
So they're trying not to have to pay people out for adverse events. Great, that's cool. Cool government. By the end of October 2021, the government had spent $5.6 billion on vaccines, less than many other parts of the COVID-19 response, such as the $13.5 billion on the NHS test and trace between 2020 and 2021. And the $15 billion spent on PPE in the same period. While the government is yet to reveal COVID-19 spending for this year, it had initially set aside $37 billion for the contact tracing scheme, the equivalent of 20% of the NHS's entire annual budget. What? This is that contact tracing scheme where after they voted and said we don't want vaccine passports, they stopped the vaccine passports in the UK and then secretly kept working on the vaccine passports, which they now called contact tracing, which traces you wherever you go. It's like the China system. And when confronted about this, they said, oh, no, it's just in case we want to use it later. It's not. We don't have any plans. We're just spending $37 billion or pounds to create 20% of our entire budget working on this contact tracing that like we don't plan on using, but like just in case. Quote, it typically takes 10 years to develop a vaccine, approve it for use, and roll it out to the public, the report added. Quote, for COVID-19 vaccines, only 8 months elapsed between setting up the vaccine task force to procure potential COVID-19 vaccines, and the start of the NHS rollout. So yeah, they're preparing, they're bracing themselves for all the money they're going to have to pay.
Yep.
While they're spending 20% of their entire NHS budget on an experimental, not going to use it, don't need it, but just in case we want it, contact tracing system. They are, it's interesting because it was horrifying how quickly the world went from the world we knew to 1984. It happened in about a year.
Yeah.
And continued for another year. Then it started kind of collapsing. But it seems like all the worst parts that crazy people like us were talking about long, long ago, even before any of this, but, the vaccine tracing thing in particular, they're like, okay, we tried to rush this a little bit too much. Let's just put it into the long-term plan. Yeah, but what do we do about all these people who are dying of the vaccine? I don't know. Let's try to reduce that liability somehow. Just figure it out.
Long COVID. Let's focus on long COVID.
Yeah. Long COVID.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah. I mean, there's another twisty turn for you. Long COVID doesn't exist. It's just vaccine.
Yeah. People
it's just the vaccine, long-term vaccine thing.
Yeah.
And they're calling it long COVID. That's certainly not an original idea, but it's starting to make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on some of the continued COVID developments, but it is interesting to see an article talk about how we're going to need some money to pay off some of the damages, but we need to figure out a way also to reduce those liabilities. It's costing us money, all these people that got injured from
1984 amount of people they need to pay out, and meanwhile, they need the money to create their 1984 style surveillance program.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's a little bit too convenient.
Yeah.
The numbers.
Yeah. Speaking of convenience, I guess.
Speaking of the beast.
It's so convenient.
Nice try.
That the BBC is reporting that the national emblem, India, rejects criticism over snarling lion statue.
Rejects criticism is pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we reject criticism pretty easily nowadays.
Yeah, we do.
So I get it, India. I get it.
All right, let me just read this a little bit here, and then you can chime in here. The Indian government has defended the look of the national emblem on top of the new parliament building amid criticism over its appearance. The new statue, adapted from an ancient Indian sculpture, was unveiled by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. The 6.5 meter, that's 21 feet, 3 inches tall, cast shows 4 Asiatic lions mounted back-to-back on a circular disc. Yeah, there you go, circular disc there for the flat earthers. Critics say the new lions look ferocious and stray from the original depictions. Opposition leaders have also criticized the government, saying that the new avatar of the emblem, adapted from the lion capital of Ashoka, a sculpture that was atop one of the several pillars erected by Emperor Ashoka during his reign in 250 BC, was a, quote, brazen insult to India's national symbol, end quote. But a federal government minister on Tuesday dismissed the criticism, saying the statue was a, quote, perfect replica of the original, quote, except for the size. Quote, sense of proportion and perspective. This is a quote. I don't know, maybe there's something lost in translation. Quote,
good quote.
Sense of proportion and perspective. Beauty is famously regarded as lying in the eyes of the beholder. So is the case with calm and anger. The original Sarnath emblem is 1.6 meters high, whereas the emblem on top of the new Parliament building is huge at 6.5 meters. Hardeep Singh Puri wrote on Twitter, posting photos comparing the original emblem and the new statue. The minister added that if an exact replica of the original were to be placed on the new building, quote, it would barely be visible beyond the peripheral rail.
What is this, an emblem for ants?
It's so tiny.
It's so tiny.
But I love this. The actual tweet from Hardeep Singh Puri. Here was what it says. If an exact replica of the original were to be placed on the new building, it would barely be visible beyond the peripheral rail. The experts should also know that the original placed in Sarnath is at ground level, while the new emblem is at a height of 33 meters from the ground.
Oh, really? Weird. Why would they choose such a specific...
I don't know.
33 meters, huh? That is really high.
I keep hitting the bell because the number just keeps popping up. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I don't think there's any significance whatsoever to the fact that the number 33 keeps popping up a lot recently. Let's see.
Recently. Just like the past few thousand years of humanity.
Yeah, a third of the stars got struck down, the whole deal. Sunil Deora, one of the two sculptors behind the statue, said that the perceived difference in the lion's demeanor was because of the, quote, scale and dimension of the new emblem. Quote, if you look at the Sarnath, and then they get into some more
No, it is pretty funny,
arguments.
though, because the criticism that they have is not that it's too big. No. Nobody's like, these lions are too big.
Right.
Yeah, well, we had to make them big because they're on a building. You know, they're not answering the questions that are being lobbed at them. The problem that they have is that the lions are too scary looking.
Yeah, they got the teeth showing. They got the mouth open.
They're all, and it's so funny because Modi is sort of commonly known as the Trump of India. He's a very Trumpian figure.
Yeah.
So if you look at the original Ashoka lions, they're actually very friendly. They're very cute. They kind of look like cute kittens. They've got big chubby cheeks.
Are these similar to the lions from like China that hold the ball like under the hand?
Similar,
like under one of the paws?
Yeah, similar. But they've got the pictures of them there in that article. You can scroll down and they kind of make the comparison. You can see them like the original ones are all cute and happy. They're happy lions, and the new ones are like kind of these mean, snarling, toothy
Trump
lions. Yeah, they're and exactly. Isn't it funny? If Trump was like, let's put some lions on the White House. Yeah, sure.
Gold.
These happy, cute lions
Gold
are very
lions
important to us.
With my hair, beautiful hair.
I can't do a Trump impression, but he would make them mean and bigger and bigger and mean. So it's
most
very
powerful lions, the best lions. Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that there was 4 of these lions. Turns out it's hard to take a picture of these lions and getting 4 of them.
You had a whole thing built on a
I had a whole
lion.
thing. I thought there was 3 of them. And so my entire thing for this is destroyed.
Well, you can...
Because I was going into the 3-headed goddess, the 3-headed deity thing, which is a whole thing in occultism and paganism and neo-paganism. A lot of very interesting deep dives into the 3-faced goddess. But this is 4 and it has nothing to do with what I was going to do. So it's going to be a short segment.
You could ask Replica for some advice. I will say this, a little, if there is something to try to save you, the 4 facing, I'm sure it's got something to do with the directions in north, south, east, west. But also the biblical description of the not the beast, like the bad beast, but the beasts that are worshiping God in Revelation. They have 4 faces, don't they? I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but it wasn't it one of the.
It's one of each. It's not. Yeah, it's not like all 4 lion heads.
There's a lion, a bird,
it's a
serpent,
leopard, lion, and
a leopard.
Bear are the 3 animals.
Oh, it is 3.
Well, that's the 3 being described. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about. Okay, yeah, this is a different beast. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up here. Internet's slow, and wife is texting me from very, very far away. So
no, this is good. This is giving me a chance to scramble and read some Wikipedia pages to try to find something else to talk about here. Because this is interesting. People care. People love these little guys. These little cute lions.
Yeah. Hold on, let me see here.
Okay, everybody just take a little nap. Just take a little dead air nap, everybody.
So Ezekiel, that's what it was. In Ezekiel, there was the vision. In the vision, there was the four faces, the human being, and then there was the face of one was the face of a cherub, one was a human being, one was a lion, and one was, where's the other one here? Is it eagle? Yeah, face of an eagle. Or wait, hold on. Human face, lion face, ox
that's what it
face,
was.
and eagle face. That's what it was.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Much better than my random assortment of creatures that I named.
Basil in the Mark of the Basil book. It's an emu. It's a
an
propaganda
emu,
rooster,
a chicken,
birds, chicken,
a cat, a rooster, an emu, and a guy with a human, but with googly eyes.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so
I need to do more research. All my research is destroyed for this thing.
Okay. Well,
dang.
Let me just tell everybody how racist I am by bringing up this next story, which is part of. I guess it flows kind of, but it's in our milieu because we talk about it all the time. And I'm stalling briefly because I'm trying to find a jingle for it, which is for CRISPR, which, everyone loves the crisp jingle. If I can.
You can't take the crisp.
CRISPR. You're supposed to do it one more time.
This whole section got screwed up.
Yeah, got a little messed up here. Anyway, I can't find the jingle. Where did it go? That's a jingle that's
you probably named it file 746L__.
Oh yeah, you're right. There it is.
CRISPR. Cas9.
Let me tell you how racist I am, okay?
Okay.
I'm racist. This is Boston Globe, mirrored by MSN.com, and the headline here is Boston Biotech Verve tests CRISPR 2.0 in a patient for the first time. Published by Ryan Cross at 3:30 a.m.
Whoa.
We don't plan these things, folks. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it says here, scientists are rewriting the code of life with a new technology that promises to cure inherited diseases by precisely correcting genetic typos. What did we talk about earlier, Basil?
Yeah, it just occurred to me. You've got the network state recoding the Leviathan, and you've got CRISPR and biotech recoding the behemoth.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Known as base editing, the technology empowers researchers to pick a single letter amongst the 3 billion that compose the human genome, erase it, and write a new letter in its place. Base editing is an updated version of the gene editing tool CRISPR, which has revolutionized life sciences research and is making strides in treating genetic blood and liver disease. But some scientists think base editing, sometimes billed as CRISPR 2.0, could be safer and more precise than the original. And
that's what they always say.
Well, it's based, Basil. And this summer, the sequel technology is being used in patients for the first time. On Tuesday, Boston biotech Verve Therapeutics announced it had edited the DNA of a person with a genetic condition that causes high cholesterol and predisposes them to heart disease, the number one killer in America. The base editor is designed to tweak a gene in the liver, curtail the accumulation of cholesterol, and hopefully lower the risk of heart attacks. Verve chief executive and co-founder, Facelikethesun likens the approach to, quote, surgery without a scalpel. Okay, now here's where I'm racist, Basil. In my little, we do the show notes, we put together the episode flow and the list of stories and everything else. And I had labeled this section Beast System and then /India. And under it has the story about the national emblem and the ferocious lion statues that we just covered. And then I had this CRISPR story. And as we were kind of reviewing it, I'm like, why did I even put this story under India? And I was like, oh, you know what it was? It was the CEO of this company.
Just heard the Indian name. And you're like, surely this is happening in India.
CanaryCry.Party. And I'm like, oh, yeah, India. Yeah,
That's
CRISPR
funny.
2.0 India. I'm so racist. I'm
Especially
so sorry.
as an Asian
Asiatic descent.
yeah, in America.
Which, I guess, that did surprise me. I remember when I found out that India was considered Asian.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all, we don't look white, I suppose, but I mean, I don't think I look Indian.
Yeah, it is an interesting little middle point there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, racist ninjas.
I can literally not find anything interesting about these lions.
I'm glad you're trying, though.
I am trying so hard to pull something out for the show.
My thing with the 3-headed lion was like, oh, maybe, connection with the CRISPR is, they're trying to create that third strand of DNA. See, the Indian CRISPR 2.0 is actually 3-stranded. But that all falls apart with you.
We are tricked.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to find some other reason to talk about the 3-faced goddess.
Let me read a little more from this article because it's got some interesting quotes in here. It quotes David Liu at the Board Institute of MIT and Harvard. And he says here, quote, "We really need ways to correct genes, not just disrupt them," said Liu. And that's where base editing comes in. Liu's base editors are modified versions of CRISPR that act like molecular erasers and pencils, swapping one of the 4 bases for letters. We already talked about that. These 2 base editors could correct about 60% of all single-letter typos that cause rare genetic diseases. Yet that's not what scientists are doing first. The 3 clinical trials of the technology starting this year will use base editors to intentionally create typos.
Oh.
The potential power of that strategy is clear in Verve's clinical trial. Scientists have discovered multiple genes that raise cholesterol and increase the risk of heart attacks. People with genetic mutations in one of these genes called PCSK9 have extremely low levels of LDL cholesterol, often called bad cholesterol, and are remarkably protected against heart attack. CanaryCry.Party said, quote, "Our idea was to develop a gene editing machine that would mimic the natural situation." And it goes on and on and on. This is kind of a longer article here. The Verve's therapy is an infusion that edits DNA directly in patients. Reinforces that point multiple times and brings up Jennifer Doudna, the inventor or co-inventor of CRISPR. Liu hopes the 3 clinical trials of base editors this year are just the start of many more to come. Quote, "It still sounds like science fiction that you can go into a patient and make a precise change in the sequence of their genome at a position that would otherwise destine them to suffer from a grievous genetic disease," Liu said. Quote, "To be able to take control of our genomes, to me, is one of the most human things we can do."
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, in a certain way, he's not wrong.
Well, in the context of a secular worldview, yeah.
Well, even in a spiritual worldview, it is one of the most human things we could do, which is try to wrench control from God's design and replace it with what we think is better for us than trusting the Father. That is a very human thing to do.
Everything's an algorithm. We just got to figure out the equation.
The Leviathan, man.
Just reprogram and change a letter here or there, and boom, new species.
Yeah,
beast species.
Well, Gonz, I'm starting to think that perhaps it was the Holy Spirit that confused us in this segment because we were so far behind.
Yeah.
And if we take a break now, we can catch up.
Kind of. We can kind of catch up. Yeah.
I think we can do it.
Come on, take a break.
Break time. This is our second break where we thank our producers who come in with their talent. Canary Cry News Talk is a place for therapeutic reflection of our troubling world, and we encourage anybody who has been blessed with talents in the arts, whether it be painting, sculpting, literature, architecture, cinema, music, theater, fushigi theater, ball dribbling.
It cannot be every single episode that we go over the virtues of fushigi art, Gonz. You're insulting a long lineage of fushigi artists.
Sure.
Transcending this mere mortal experience by making a little glass ball float around on their hand.
Yes. So
delighting children and me.
Sure. Whatever it may be, make it related to the show, and then give it to us, and we shall share it with the world, and we can process the world together, and laugh, cry, everything in between.
Oh my gosh!
So,
well, good news is we can keep playing the jingles for the long streakers under 777 because we can just cut this.
Sure.
Cut down your intro. Come on, man. If I got to cut down my intros, you got to cut down your intros.
All right. Well, here's some audio producers.
Audio production.
We're going to start with Lloyd V, who came in with a couple pieces here. He has a note. Hey dudes, I made a jingle that can be played in the background while Gonz is looking for a file. It's called Looking for a File. We have a few of these now. Yeah, we got a few. Yeah. But the problem is looking for those jingles to look for the file.
You keep losing the file that you play to find the file.
I need like I need like the one to look for the one. So anyway, it says here I've included a version with and a version without vocals. Hope you like it. Love and blessings. Lloyd V. Basil, do you want to hear the one with vocals or without?
With.
Okay, which one is the one with? Okay, well, the with vocal. Here we go.
Ooh.
Gonzo, where are you? We're sitting here waiting for you to find your file. The show must go on, man. Gonz is looking for a file. You already know this might take a while. And we're sitting
this is so good.
Waiting.
I don't want to stop it.
Cabana boy.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Please redeem us with words of joy. He's still looking for his file. I've been sitting here for a while. My butt is hurting from the chair. Gonz, tell us you found the file.
This goes on for another 30 seconds.
Buddy. Cabana boy. Gonz. Cabana boy. Where are you, man? Gonz. Cabana boy.
Oh, that's so good.
Nice job. Nice job.
Wonderfully played, and the vibe is right all around. And the Dutch accent really adds a lot to it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Lloyd V.
Lloyd V. Really up in the game of the audio producers. I'm gonna have that stuck in my. I should play that for my wife and just be like, whenever you miss me, just play this.
Yeah, you should definitely play it at the mixtape at the end of the show today. It'll be a good vibe.
I had a weird thought.
Uh-oh.
I won't share it right now, so we need to keep moving. All right, let's do some.
This is good instincts to trust.
Some art production.
One art, please.
And we're going to start off with Dame Allie of the Skillet Nation.
One RC, another one from Allie. Now here it is.
And the piece comes with a haiku, and let me get the title just to double check here. Oh yes, it is called Honorary Executive Producer Bradley T. Klontz.
Oh, it's Brad Klontz.
Psi D CFP. I think that's all of his titles. Yes, he was our honorary executive producer last episode.
I recognize this guy.
You do?
We've reported on, of course, we had Klontz last episode. We talked about Klontz, and he was integral to the entire show. That's why we gave him executive producer. This is the guy. We've reported on this guy before. Remember, he looks like Alistair Crowley.
Oh, was it Crowley?
No, not Crowley.
Anton LaVey.
LaVey. Yeah, thank you.
Is that him? Is it the same guy?
It looks like the same guy, man. And the other guy, it was a story. He was we got to look into it.
Yeah.
Here, why don't you do the thing? I'm going to look into this. Hold on.
All right. So there is an accompanying haiku to go with this from Ebony Blaze here. Wisdom Nuggets. Honorary Executive Producer Bradley T. Klontz, Psi D. CFP. A Dame Ebony Blaze haiku. Narrow your focus. 3/4 stress reduction. Mind your own business. Do worst case role play. Financial stress can kill you, but only rarely. Take a moment. Breathe. Emotional flood equals rational challenge. Frame of reference. Wide. Cliff looks more like pothole. Divide and conquer. Learn more on website. And that's my YouTube channel. I am an expert.
Okay, it's not the same guy.
That's what I thought. But yeah, I get your thing. A bald dude that looks LaVey-ish. I can see how we can confuse.
It's not the same guy. Don't worry. Thank you very much, Dame Allie and Dame Ebony Blaze. And here we have a wonderful pencil drawing portrait of Mr. Klontz. He is a bald man, and he does have a goatee. So you can see why the connection would be made there. But indeed, you look close enough. Yes, the lizard eyes also help make the connection.
Yeah, the thing that's remarkable about this one is you can tell that Klontz is standing in front of one of those round makeup lights, those circular lights that go around your camera.
Ring lights.
Yes, that's what it's
got
called.
Ring lights there in his eyes.
You can see it in his eyes.
Yeah, this is very well done. Now, I'm looking at a photo of Klontz also. It helps that he's got a lot of headshots to choose from, this guy.
He likes his face, huh?
Yeah, a lot of well-lit headshots. You could tell he has his own ring light that it didn't make it into the picture here. Thank you very much, Dame Allie.
Thank
really
you, Dame
well
Allie.
done.
Appreciate it. All right, we got one from Sir Dove, Knight of Respeltia.
One art piece from Dove.
And the note accompanying this piece says, Peace! For this week's NWO Fantasy League update, we've got some more promotional artwork. Callie Kate roars to the crowd after she makes a goal line stand in the final minute to give the Transformers the win in the game of the week. Oh, and Gonz, the Captain Patches stars in the NFL represent how long they've been captain. Since Callie Kate transitioned back in 2015, I figured she was kind of an OG on the squad. Hope you like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for you. Dove, P.S. Wanted to give a special birthday shout out to Estimating One Discovering Three's daughter, who just turned 16 today.
Congratulations. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Thank you,
daughter
Estimating
of-
One Discovering Three's daughter.
Yes.
16.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Get that
thank
driver's
you.
license.
Thank you, Sir Dove. And yes, we've got some more promotional work here for the New World Order Fantasy League. Gonz, you got that jingle?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Yes, I do.
Okay,
It's
hold on, he says.
Oh, I need to hear it. Let me just play that real quick. And then,
yeah,
it works out. It's great.
Gonzo.
Oh, yeah?
Where are you?
I'm here.
We're sitting here waiting.
Okay, hold on.
For you to find your file.
I'm trying.
The show must go on, man.
Yeah, I know.
Gonz is looking for a file.
Okay, here it is.
It is a New World Order Fantasy League. They're all 100% eugenics, transhumanist lizards
That control everything.
They hate you.
That's right. Go to nwofl.com. Read all about the New World Order Fantasy League and sign up. Take your place in line for when it's time to rumble. We've got a wonderful promotional piece of artwork here. It is Callie Kate, and she's on the Transformers. Is her team, which is genius. Well done, Sir Dove. And notable things. We got the Transformers logo here. She is number two. Lots of different reasons why that could be. There's captain of the team, captain of the Transformers, full 4 stars. Very impressive.
4 Baphomet stars.
Yes. And you'll notice, you go down, you might think, is there what's going on here? You go all the way down. Wearing some calf-high fishnet stockings.
Subtle but good.
Part of the uniform for the Transformers. There keeps the legs cool. Aerodynamics, I'm sure, are improved, and is just a wonderful piece of culture for.
Is he? She holding the mouth guard in the left hand. Is that what that is?
It looks like it.
Yeah, the mouth guard.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, got the mouth guard out there. Some big biceps.
He's an Olympic gold medalist. Yeah,
I was gonna
once
say,
Olympic gold. Never.
It depends. It's all timing. Timing is sort of the issue with sports and the trans community when the transition takes place is kind of what's. We actually did not report that, but the swimming Federation or whatever. Yeah. They made a rule. They made a rule.
The rule was like, go ahead.
So they banned trans athletes who transitioned after 12 years old.
Yeah.
So if you transition before 12 years old, before puberty, and you haven't gotten all the male enhancements that come with puberty, the muscles, the bones, the things like that. So it's pretty intense. I mean, not intense. What is the word I'm looking for? Big news, I guess.
Sure.
They just kind of did it. They just decided to do it, and they did it.
But the olive branch is the whole, unless you transition before 12, which is like a nod to, prepubescent gender change, which is not something I want to support.
Well, that's where the science is. That's where right. Okay, right. So that is problematic a bit. Yeah, for some reasons.
Because if you have some really progressive people that are like, they're looking at their kid and they're like, I don't know.
Yeah,
they're going to be like, you got to make a decision if you want to compete with the best.
A case for transitioning.
Sorry,
early.
Yeah,
and there's certainly discussion to be had about that. Very interesting. Well, thank you very much, Sir Dove. And you just keep bringing it over the goal line with these pieces. Is that a sports thing to say?
Sure, yeah. Goal lines are
touchdown. You did a good touchdown with this piece of art.
You did a good touchdown. Yeah, there you go.
You did a good touchdown. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. NWOFL.com, folks. People are lining up. The list is growing. So if you're interested, make sure to go put in your email at nwofl.com. Thank you, sir.
Popping up on the website here, but it is a good website.
It is our best website.
It is our best website, and it is, for sure.
It is because we did not make it. Producer Laura C. made it, and we're very proud of her.
Yeah, whenever people that know what they're doing do things for us, it always comes out better.
That's the thing about podcasting or doing really any online media thing. You always have to start out doing all of it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's always very bad.
Yeah.
Until you can get some producers, some actual professional producers who can make it happen.
Yep.
It's loading fine for me. It's looking great.
All right. Let's do a microfiction here.
Okay.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
And we have one from Rung Smash.
Basil vanishes in haste, knowing exactly where the hooded figure is, but an unaware rooster turns to the her. The giant digital bird locks eyes with her. You must be a creation of his. she says with a smile. He taught me to love, laugh, and survive. Gotta love the cold reads. Did not understand whose voice I should be making. But I think Replica and Rooster are having a moment.
Yeah. They're discovering each other
discovering each other.
What is this? Something verse. Runkverse.
In the Cyberverse. Thank you very much, Runk Smash.
Thank you, Runk Smash. And that'll do it for the art or the art producers. Yeah, that's it.
So if you are a creative person, no matter what you do, create something for the show, send it into the show. Artists are the preservationists of culture, but also the creators of it, the scribes and the storytellers, the myth makers, and such is the same here in the Canaryverse. We love our artists in all different shapes and sizes and forms and talents. Create something for the show. Send it in to CanaryCry.Radio@gmail.com. We'll put it on the show and appreciate it very much.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, you wanted to wake up, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love being awake.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about? What are we talking about?
The link that takes me up to the correct place in our document has stopped working, so I'm having to scroll manually. Space. Wanna go to space? Oh yeah, this was a big deal. Everybody's all
jazzed up, baby.
Jazzed about this. So I guess we just got to mention it. Celebrities and politicians and it's just like the cool thing. It's got a strange virtue signal aspect to it, and it's also not loading for me. But we are talking about the James Webb Telescope's new views of the cosmos. You may have seen this if you exist on the internet. You've heard people talking about this. Is it loading for you,
Yes,
Gonz?
it is.
Okay, why don't you take it?
This is from, where's the outlet? New York Times, and the headline here, scientists marvel at NASA Webb Telescope's new views of the cosmos. And, I mean, it looks like every space picture we've seen since
That's
like 1960.
what got me too, man.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like all the other pictures that have been taken.
And it looks like a bunch of lens flare effects from Photoshop. I mean, it does not look...
It just looks like the same things that Hubble has been showing us.
Yeah.
Now, allegedly, this is zoomed in a lot to like a part of the sky that is just like ludicrously far away.
It's like a grain of sand holding it at an arm's length or something.
Right.
Small.
So they're staring into deep space. One of the notable things that I read, whatever. You'll notice how it's kind of funky, like it's kind of warped, like all the lens flares of the galaxies are in the same direction. The big bright spot in the middle, they say, is like a collision of two galaxies and exploding.
How do they know any of this?
They have the pictures.
Oh, the pictures. Okay.
Yeah, look, we're looking at them now. Oh, you're looking at the different one. You're looking at the nebula one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, this was another one. And something to keep in mind with all these nebula pictures, all the nebula pictures that you see from these telescopes, this is not what you would see with the naked eye. Like if you were floating there in space, you would not see this. These are run through, allegedly, some very particular like sensors. They're sensing different colors through the gases that exist out there. You know, it's a very complicated process. The picture that I kept seeing and was floating around Twitter was literally just the same picture of, you know,
it was like the Eye of God nebula type thing.
No, not even that exciting.
Which one was that?
The least exciting one. I'm trying to find it here for you.
I'm trying to
strangely, for some reason, is more. I could not get away from this picture,
and now you can't find it.
And now I cannot find it. So everybody seems to have latched onto the more exciting nebula pictures. Maybe you could just search.
I'm seeing the Southern Ring Nebula. Very similar to what we've seen in the past year. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
One of the problems with the archived version is it takes out some of the images. So.
And here's the point. You know, I don't know. I don't know if what's up. A lot of people have a lot to say about space and trusting NASA and things like that. But the point is the way that who is doing it. Like I should just look it up. I could go down the line of celebrities that were obsessed with this. Like AOC was talking about it. Congratulations, NASA. Science rules.
Oh, gosh.
Like, okay, all right. Seriously, you're a politician and this is your thing. It really is a shibboleth, either a shibboleth or a talisman. I'm going to put a picture here and link it for you, Gonz.
Science is truth.
Deep space. And, you know, in regards to the science lovers or science deniers or whatever, which are labels that are used against anybody, specifically science deniers, labels that are used against anybody who just simply does not eat the spoon that is in front of them. You know, they're not being anybody who's a narrative skeptic, or not even narrative skeptic, just authority skeptic, questioning authority, to post about this picture, especially as a celebrity or someone who previously gives zero attention to space or whatever. It really is a talisman or a shibboleth or a virtue signal would be the modern phraseology of it. You just say, wow, look at this deep space. It's so magical. It's the coolest thing. Space is awesome. And if you don't think so, you're an anti-vaxxer and you need to go back to your hole and never come out again. That's sort of the subtext of it.
I didn't realize President Joe Biden actually unveiled the picture that you sent me here, the Galaxy Cluster SMAC0723.
Yeah,
it says here President Joe Biden unveiled this image. Like,
right.
Wow.
So
Biden.
that's really the analysis to be looking into here. Whether or not you think the pictures are right or not or whatever, or real or fake, honestly, that's the least interesting conversation I have about these. The more interesting thing to me is it was unveiled by the President of the United States, Joe Robinet Biden, and was retweeted by AOC. And it much like wearing your mask or taking a selfie with your mask on, or showing your arm with your Band-Aid, your Vax Band-Aid, or whatever, it is simply an opportunity to identify yourself as, this matters to me. This matters very much to me. And if this doesn't matter to you, then you're some sort of unvaccinated animal. You talk about the religion of scientism, where speaking the language, doing your Hail Marys, doing your whatever, using the right terms, so you know who's in and who's out, and who's orthodox and who's not orthodox, and who's clean and unclean, and who to shun, et cetera, et cetera. That is what these pictures are being used for, whether or not that was like the intent or not. But it very much is weird, because you'd think, who would care about the deep space mysteries of space and the reality, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a stonery kind of Joe Rogan thing, honestly, or a nerdy type of thinker thing. But to have Joe Biden and AOC using it as some sort of badge is just really gross.
Yeah, some kind of signaling that you belong to the scientism network state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a part of this, and sure, the discussion about is space real or not is always, I wouldn't dismiss it. I think it's fun. Yeah.
It's fun.
But yeah, like you said, the more pressing issue, the more important thing here is the sort of virtue signaling. And I in the context of what we've been talking about with this whole divide and conquer, and giving the opposition, the rebel force, if you will, the uprising, the organic pushers back of the system type of people, I don't know, libertarians, whatever you want to call them, conservatism or whatever. Those people, this is a great way to trigger those folks, to identify them. Like if you're thinking of it from the view of the progressive liberal mindset or whatever, you can say, oh, we got to separate the tares from the wheat. And again, from their perspective, the tares being like Christians who are anti-science, right?
Right.
We have to identify them. How do we do that? Well, we do something like this, and everybody who's arguing against the narrative are just labeled, oh, you've identified yourself as this crazy right-wing anti-vax, like you said, anti-vax, and you're weaponized as being part of that group. The same people that knocked over the Georgia Guidestones. That's you evil Republicans or whatever.
Right.
So yes, I see that very much as part of the election year. Keeping that in mind.
And another part of it that strikes me now, and I realize has identified in me another part of my own sort of process, has been, this is definitely the type of thing that I would have gotten super stoked about years ago.
Younger,
Yeah, years ago, I would be the one being like, oh my gosh, this new picture, look at this. And I'd show it to somebody and they'd be like, okay, it's a bunch of blurs and blah, blah, blah. And like cool kids, they don't get it. They're like, okay, that's cool, I guess. I'm like, no, you don't get it. That's so far away. That picture is like equivalent of holding a grain of sand at arm's length and looking up into the sky. That's how far away it is. And, I would be sort of there's so many more important things going on in the world to care about that.
That was the other point I was going to make, was that by having the president do this, it puts into context this sort of like cosmological perspective on.
Oh, you think your gas prices are too high?
Right,
you think sending $60 billion to Ukraine for no reason is too much? Oh, I have a literal 94% disapproval rating with voters, Democratic voters 30 and under. None of that matters because look at all these shiny blurs.
There's billions of galaxies out there.
Yeah, it's actually very much a conservative mindset. If you think about it, if you think about it structurally, it's a conservative mindset, which makes it much more interesting to have. Because, the example would be for someone who is eternally minded to say, you know what? Yeah, things are really bad on Earth right now. And man, they've always been bad. And they might be especially bad now, but God is good and eternity is forever. And things of this earth are passing away. And, we blah, blah, blah. The whole thing. I don't mean to blah, 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 but you know what I mean.
Right.
So that whole idea of like, look bigger is it really very much a conservative mindset. And so to have Joe Biden and AOC and all these blue check marks obsessing over this as if they want you, you talk about distractions. Don't pay attention to the gas prices. Don't pay attention to the food crisis. Don't pay attention to our totally ludicrous president
destroying the the
and the
people.
Pay attention.
Don't pay attention to that. We got galaxies out there. We got the other people.
The metaphor of like looking for distractions, and they finally find one where they're like, no, don't just look over there. Look as far over there as is humanly possible. This is how far away they need us to pay attention, to distract us from the things happening right in front of us. It is no longer good enough to complain about China or to complain about. You must
location, quote unquote, in the cosmos.
Set your mind on the infinite vastness of nothingness, the furthest distance that humans have ever been able to peer. Please don't look at the video of me crashing my bike.
Don't look at the video of my son.
Weighing out crack with a prostitute. Don't look at any of that.
This is really interesting,
Literally,
what if that was the backroom convo? Oh, we gotta distract everybody from Hunter Biden videos. What do we do?
Absolutely is. Cast your attention as far away as humanly conceivable. You're not even able to conceive of how far away this is. That's how far away I want you to be looking instead of looking at the videos of Hunter Biden weighing crack next to a prostitute. I mean, that's the real story
That
here
is
in my
great. Yeah. Well, and to your point about the political aspect of this, we have the New Yorker here, and I was upset that this was satire because I was like, oh, this is so good.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But also I was kind of like, wow, it's very weak for satire. So here we go. This is New Yorker here.
This is the New Yorker. By the way, just real quick, I want to let you loose on this, but people need to know, they need to keep in mind, when we say the New Yorker, it's the New Yorker. Yeah. Like the artsy, fartsy, elite, liberal, rich, white, like the most disgusting outlet you could possibly imagine in the context of our modern world, taking themselves way too seriously, pretentiousness coming out of their ears, the most ludicrous outlet to be trying to post satire, even though they do their cartoons. They've always tried to do, even their cartoons are pretentious. And then they post this as satire.
Marjorie Taylor Greene accuses James Webb Telescope of making other galaxies available to Jewish lasers.
The amount, the depth, the pure depth of unfunny that headline is, I will say the concept is funny.
I know, yeah. It was probably funny in his head, and then he wrote it.
The headline is 4 lines of headline to try to make this joke. They are just unfunny people.
Well,
okay,
give him a chance. Okay, here we go.
Give
Washington.
him a chance.
Remember, this is satire. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has accused NASA's James Webb Telescope of finding new galaxies for Jewish space lasers to destroy. Quote, "It's bad enough that the Rothschilds' lasers are wreaking havoc on our solar system," the Georgia congresswoman told reporters. Quote, "Now, thanks to the so-called Webb Telescope, no corner of the universe will be safe from the international banking family's ravaging space beams," end quote.
Okay. Ravaging. International banking families ravaging space beams is okay.
It's funny, but also kind of true there, buddy. There's some space lasers illegal. Declaring her solidarity with, quote, "all galactic victims of interstellar Hebraic weaponry." That's pretty funny.
Somebody found a thesaurus over there at the New Yorker.
Greene proposed defunding NASA unless it, quote, "stops doing the bidding of the Jewish laser cartel." Okay, starting to wear thin here. Quote, "I stand with the people of Carina Nebula," she said. "I too am from another planet."
That's the punchline.
End of the satire.
The punchline of the article is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is what? An alien?
That's from another planet.
That's the punchline of the satire. Now, we read this just so you also suffer with us as we had to read this. And in the context of who this outlet is and precisely the sort of infinite depth of unfunny that this satire achieved.
Yeah.
I want to bring to everyone's attention the idea, the meme, the cultural touchstone of a phrase called "the left can't meme." Gonz, I gave you a little rundown of this, but before I did, you had not heard really of this. I mean, maybe you heard it, but you didn't really know.
I heard of it. I don't know the extent of it, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this phrase, "the left can't meme." If you're a meme lord like myself, or an aspiring meme lord, more of a meme dilettante like myself, you'll be aware of this. The left can't meme. And it really is just a statement of fact that the left, they cannot meme. They cannot make funny online content. Perhaps you've seen a meme berating Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene or something, and it's never funny. And look, I like to think of myself as someone who can not only laugh at myself, but laugh at, the things that I hold to be true or believe,
Sure.
or it's just things I identify with,
Yeah.
I follow some Christian meme pages too that sometimes may go a little far, but hey, it's funny is funny.
Right.
In my book, I know not everybody agrees with me, but funny is funny.
Jokes are equitable.
Yeah. Even if it's at your expense, you gotta recognize.
Make fun of everybody. Yeah.
But the left can't meme. And here's a great resource for you, Gonz, and for anybody else who ever finds a meme that they don't understand or would like to know more about meme culture, which is prominence during the